I'd like to add something too. Whenever we first bought the property back in May of 2023, we had intentionally proposed a CUP, just a conditional use permit for a farmer's market stand, a commercial farm stand. As we've gone through this process with working with the county, they have told us that we have to produce what we are selling. 50% of the sales floor has to be what we're selling. So we're meat producers. It's too small of an area to have a cow on. So we were kind of led to, this is the way that you can accomplish your dream of having a commercial farm stand. It's not going to be able to be agricultural. So that's why we applied for the C1. Our goals haven't changed. It's still what it was in the very beginning.
Any questions for the applicant?
What about the facility itself? Are you going to have an actual, are you going to put a building up, or?
Yeah, we have it right here.
Do you
If you'd like
have,
to
so
see it.
do they have to do a concept plan
that on the-
after this? too?
Right here,
Tell
right here,
Jennifer,
TJ.
tell her to come in. She was wondering, she may not,
Once they get a commercial designation, they can do
I think you could put it under that light.
Right here, put it right here.
So if we
Yeah,
were
so it's gonna be a
to-
small barn-like facility, and we'll have a little pavilion out back where we might have some of the local farmers market kind of stuff.
Do I need to press a button?
Yeah, it should come up in the
It'll-
back. Yeah,
yeah.
it takes a minute for them to. Wake up back there. And then how are you going to handle traffic, just as a,
So right now, there's
in and out.
there's a driveway that's right off the stop sign. We're gonna take that out. We're gonna move it 200 feet down,
Okay.
mainly on F, and then we're gonna have it on
Highway.
Highway 94 as well. We've got it
Okay.
driven up, but on 94, you're only gonna be able to make a right, so you're not crossing traffic with people that are coming back from the wineries or the breweries and stuff down there.
Okay,
So that's the proposed front.
right.
And then these trees here, just kind of remember those trees. We had these added in. One of the worries that we heard from one of the neighbors was, we took all the trees down. When the tornado hit, we took everything down. There's no house there, there's no structure, no trees. So we planned on putting everything back in, beautifying that corner, because it is the cornerstone of Defiance. You pass that coming in, or you pass it coming out. So we added these trees to give, and I'll show you where they're exactly placed, but to give the house that's directly across the street some privacy, and then as well as some in the back that the Millers and Seeger, the Seeger house, are affected from. So that's that side. That's the side of it.
And how big is this, how big is it?
Right
Square
now, we're
foot?
planning on 20 by 60, something pretty small.
Wow, that's really
We
small.
plan on using the existing foundation from the
Right.
house that
I
was
gotcha.
already there.
Okay.
You showing any parking?
Yeah, we got parking.
I'm
coming
sorry,
up.
we have 10 to 20 spaces right now.
So here, right, well, let me get the other paper so I can show you where it's currently at, sorry.
It's okay.
Did I forget it? Okay. So right now, like this is the stop sign right here. Right now, the driveway is here. So we plan to pull back the entrance and exit here, all the way back. That's the furthest corner of the property. And then coming out on 94, a right-hand turn only to help alleviate traffic. I don't know if they can go left. If you come up here, this swings around, it's a very dangerous curve, and then coming this way is pretty dangerous, so I would think, not traffic safety, but probably just a right hand. Proposed parking's here. I can show you the spaces in a minute. There's also 2 handicap spots. And then, I foresee the traffic that's coming out to our shop is already coming or going. I don't think it's gonna be extremely busy there, and again, it's gonna depend on season and weather. When it's warm outside, we'll have traffic. When it's not, we're not gonna have any, well, besides the locals.
Again,
But
you
we
said
will have,
16 by 20 is what you said, about? On the
20 by,
side?
20 by 60.
by
Okay.
60.
Oh, by 60?
By 60?
Yeah,
okay.
so about 1,200 square feet, which I think that's what the house was. If I remember, the house that was there was already
Yeah.
roughly that size, about
Okay.
1,200 square foot home.
so these are the bundle of trees, and there's a house right here, oh, it's like right here, that
Right.
would be affected by directly having to stare at it. So that would give that family some privacy as well as some in the back.
Yeah.
What existing utilities are at the property?
Right now, there's a rural septic, and then there's still water and electric
Okay.
on site.
And a propane tank.
Yeah, propane.
Appropriate for heat.
Any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing for zoning map amendment request located at 2501 South Highway 94. Anyone wishing to speak?
Hi.
You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings and the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Peter Rook, 149 Old Colony Road, Defiance, Missouri.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
A couple of things I wanted to bring up. On his map, there's two existing curb cuts there. The two curb cuts they're showing, I think, are existing there. So I don't think the site would need any additional curb cuts, just FYI. I live about less than a quarter mile behind there and have lived in Defiance for 6 years. We have recently had a lot of commerce being sold in Defiance, as you're probably aware. To that fact, I think there's two reasons why I think you should really highly consider approving this site. One is we have an issue of lack of competitiveness that is starting in the city of Defiance. Every piece of commerce is owned by one company. Good or bad, that's what it is. I think it's not very patriotic to allow big business to come in and not give an opportunity to share the commerce that Defiance has with local investors and local farmers. I know New Melle has embraced significantly the regenerative farming activities that are going on in New Melle, and they have opened a co-op, and there's other entities that are forming to facilitate this type of commerce. I think we all agree that it's healthy for everybody. It's also a way to drive inherent commerce in the Defiance and New Melle area, because there are people that are growing their own products and they have a market for those products. And it's called fresh vegetables and fruits and meats, pork. So whatever you decide, I would just like to say that in the long and short, big picture wise, I think it would behoove you to consider projects like this from local people that are going to grow and sell products to local neighbors.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir. In our sort of, not our normal start to the meeting, I forgot to, with large crowds, please limit your comments to 3 minutes, okay? And if, once we get several people coming up and everyone's talking about the same subject, I will remind people that we know about traffic and we know about lights or planting of trees. So that's, remember, 3 minutes and try not to be repetitive. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding zoning map amendment request, RZ 23-01? Okay. Yep, come on, sir, you can just come right up here and wait. You can stand right, no, you're fine. You beat him up here. You're on deck. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Joseph Kester. I live at 2440 South Highway 94 in Defiance, 63341, and have property in Augusta, Missouri as well.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
So I rise here just to come and support the Winklers and their project. I moved in that area. I'm from St. Charles County, but I moved down there because my understanding was that the master plan was going to support local-owned businesses, cottage industries, artisanal things. This is the exact kind of thing that I'd like to see and have something close by to buy produce and milk and meat products and things from. Right now, I have to go about 6 miles or whatever up the road to Double D Market, and they often have like short hours and things. So I just wanted to come and say I support it. I'm close. I get a baseball over to the property. I'm right there. And, yeah, I would encourage you guys to consider voting in favor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Larry Smith, 431 Highway F, Defiance, 63341.
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I wholeheartedly am in favor of this venture to make local produce available to the neighborhood, local products. So, anyway, I just wanted to say I approve. I live a very short distance away, and I'd like to see it there. It's kind of something not totally unique, but it's, we're not talking about putting a McDonald's up here or something like that. It's something that's quaint, which fits in with the neighborhood. So anyway, I approve,
Thank you.
and hopefully you will too. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak regarding RZ 23-01? You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Chris Roth. I represent 2546 South Highway 94, the Roth Family Residence Trust.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I guess I'll be the dissenting vote here. All the people here in this room haven't lived close to that location. We're within 200 feet of that location for over 60 years. That is a holy, W-H-O-L-E, holy residential neighborhood, not commercial. Couple questions. One is, they don't have sewers. I don't know how you're going to get around, or how they expect to get around the whole sewage thing. Don't know. Not my problem. The other thing is, I get it, businesses. I'm good with that. I don't want to squash anybody's hopes, dreams, or aspirations. But did anybody do their due diligence with P&Z before this all went down? And now the neighbor straight across, they come down with COVID. They had been here tonight. He had been yelling and screaming. Guys behind, they're not approve of it. People I represent, people behind our property do not agree with none of this. Like I said, hopes and dreams, not putting them right down. But it'd be the first business right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Just saying.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding RZ 23-01?
Hi.
Hi.
Lucy Smith, 431.
Hold on. Whoa. You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I swear.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Lucy Smith, 431 Highway F, resident for close to 30 years, and live pretty close by. I'm a retired MoDOT engineer, worked in traffic for, 10 or 15 years. I recently just looked at the site distance, excellent site distance where they plan to have their access points. So I don't know if anything's changed in requirements on distance from the stop sign, but I support that. And I also am excited about, as others have said, so I won't do all the repeating, on, getting progress on local, selling local, and it's nice to know where your meat is coming from and being raised.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
That's it.
Anyone else wishing to speak regarding RZ 23-01? Anyone? Seeing no one, we will, here we go. Under the wire. I'm gonna move it fast. Me either. Please, you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
John Lyons, 97 Walnut Creek Trail, just down the road on Highway F.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I've been there 45 years. I know the Winklers, and I love the idea that they have, and I think it would be a great addition to our area.
Okay.
Basically, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding this application? Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and bring RZ 23-01 back to the commission. We'll ask the applicant to come back. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Ms. Kirshner?
I do. I like the idea of your building, what it looks like and all that. I think it's great. But have you made provisions for any kind of equipment that'll be sitting around outside? Wheelbarrows, pallets, anything like that? That will not be,
Are you talking like maybe a storage shed or something like that?
yes, or is there room in the shed, the building that you're putting up?
I think there's room, but there's also another slab that we could build on, that's already on the property,
The designs.
like the inside of it.
On this one right here, we did.
I'll have to ask them.
Sorry, if you can hit that awesome button.
I got it.
It's good.
I got it.
Right here, right there, there is a slab right there that we were gonna put up some kind of shed for utensils and our
Equipment.
equipment and stuff.
Have mowers and all kinds of things.
Well, I only live about 100 yards away.
We live right behind it as well.
Is it right there? I mean, that sweet zero turn is gonna stay in my garage, so.
That was just my question.
Yes,
about
ma'am. Thank you.
Exterior items.
Upkeep and stuff like that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So just so I understand, at the bottom, the double line is essentially the driveway?
Right
I
here?
think it was,
F.
I think it was the old Colony or old F highway. It was a road at one point, right here.
That was a cut through before,
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Okay.
So that, but now it's just, dirt and grass right now.
Is that part of the property?
It is.
Part
It's,
of the
that's
property?
that second parcel. So we got one parcel
I see.
here, and that's that second parcel that makes it two. And we'll go through the,
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay.
I've got a question. Now, the concept looks great, but I have an issue with the rezoning. Is there no way to do this on an agricultural facility?
Can you hear me? Okay. Our first thing we looked at was, is this possible to do under the existing agricultural zoning? So we looked at, as you were saying, a farm stand and a commercial farm stand, but both of those definitions are basically is on-site. You have a farm, on that farm, you're, have a farm stand. So we even looked at the possibility of, is there a way to intensively use a small parcel of land for production, which you sometimes see in urban areas. You see like urban agriculture and vegetables and fruits and chickens and things like that. That's a possibility, but that's also really hard on just 1 acre. I don't see any alternative to do this facility under agricultural zoning. The parcel's small for agricultural, it's an acre. It's hard to use it for agricultural purposes under the existing agricultural zoning. There was a house there and was destroyed by the tornado, so that's where we're at with this.
Robert, let me ask this. Now, they're not obviously contiguous, or I guess there'd be a way of putting them together.
Yeah.
But couldn't you have continuity in use with the same ownership, which is frequently done in appraisal and business situations where properties are not adjacent, but they're tied together?
As I understand it, the production is across the road, it's on the other
We
side.
don't live very far at all. That's why we originally wanted to just keep it.
Right,
I
yeah.
mean, we are producing everything. We have 2 properties on Highway F. Our house is, I mean, we can see it from,
The 380 is on the same side of the road. There is 2 properties in between. One of them is an acre, and it's mainly just the creek. And then there's another property that is elongated down the highway, and it has a driveway that cuts back about 500, 600 feet. So they do not touch, but
But
they
it
are
is
on the same side of the road.
Yeah.
And it would seem in terms of use, they're serving the same purpose, correct?
Well, my thought is if they were contiguous, there, you could extend that use
Sure,
and say it's
sure,
part
that'd
of
be
the old
obvious
farm
then, yeah.
operation. I could definitely see that. But seeing that part of it is across the way and part of it's down a little bit, it's hard for me to just say this is part of the farm. I think that's where we're at.
I mean, with commercial development, but residential, your setbacks are gonna be what?
I think it's 10 or 15 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, their proposal is for C1 neighborhood, commercial district. It's not C2, general business district. So under C1, you could basically do offices, retail, and some neighborhood uses like services, and let me review the setbacks, make sure.
The side yard is 10 when not adjoining a commercial property, and the rear yard is 15 when not adjoining a commercial property.
Okay.
Is there any requirements as far as infrastructure upgrades with the zoning this? Can it be on septic, or does it have to be on sanitary service?
It could be on septic. The parcel is awfully small for septic use. In fact, the barest minimum we can do for septic is on a case-by-case basis. We can go down to 1 acre. And this, if you combine both parcels, they would be just over 1 acre. So they could barely make a septic system work on this site, but it's
it
possible.
has a septic system on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there
For
was,
residential.
because
Oh,
you're
okay.
triggering a rezone, if
Gotcha,
that's
okay.
causing you to have to upgrade. So,
Yeah.
But Robert, looking under the conditional uses, it just says convenience store, which goes on to say, which may include the sale of gasoline and/or automobile car wash, limitation of 5,000 gross square feet. So, I mean, when you see convenience store, I'm thinking of QT, but it just says convenience store. It doesn't give any further definition.
Well, there's a different use category. It's under R, I think it's for retail. Let me find this here. Retail store, this is under permissive uses. Retail store including antiques, art and hobby supplies, books and magazines, candy, nut confectionery, etc. Dry goods, gifts, novelties, pastries. There's a whole listing there. You know, since they're not selling gasoline, and it's not really a traditional convenience store, I don't know if I would put it in that classification, because it doesn't seem like it'd have the traffic. It's more like a meat market, I think.
It is.
Right.
Is really what it'd be.
It'd be convenient.
It would be convenient. A convenient meat market, let's say, yeah.
New definitions.
So, Robert, I'm obviously familiar with this area really well and had phone calls all week about this. And some of the concern is next week, if we rezone it, next week it could become QT, right? Now, granted, it's got some size limitations. I don't think anybody's upset about what they're trying to do, but in 10 years, it's still going to be zoned the same way. Are there ways that we can put limitations on this property to say, we'll let this go in the C1 category, but some type of restriction that it can't be anything else?
No, because zoning map amendments, you can't condition those.
Okay.
If it's zoned for C1, then there's a certain bundle of development rights that the property has from there on out. And anyone could use any permissive use, or they could apply for a conditional use permit for any conditional use within that district. But it is going to be, it does have limitations, as you pointed out, the size, the lack of utilities, and some other factors.
Going back to number 26, retail store, Counselor? I'm in 405.130. At the very end of the retail store, it goes what Mr. Myers had said about including selling of antiques, art and hobby supplies, books, magazines, cigars, cigarettes, etc. And you get on down to the very last, it says, sporting goods, stationery, and toy shops, in connection with, there shall be no slaughtering of animals or poultry, nor commercial fish cleaning or processing on the premises. Could that imply that you could be selling meat? Because you have an exclusion that you can't process it on the, slaughter it on the premises.
Oh, I see what you're saying, in terms of, it sort of implies you just can't do the slaughtering there in the present, but it implicates there could be some sort of meat sales there. I see what you're saying, and I mean, without providing advice to individual
Yeah.
citizens or anything like that, I would agree with that interpretation, yes.
Okay.
That's a tough business. I don't want to get in.
No.
We're having fun.
I know, I don't,
Trying to do the best for the property.
totally appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicants? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank y'all for your time.
We'll bring RZ 23-03 back to the commission for consideration. Any other questions for staff?
Actually, I do have a question for the applicant, if you can come back up. Applicant, could you come back up? Hey,
Mr.
applicants,
Mr.
could you come
Winkler?
back up?
Oh.
So you have staff that's recommending denial.
Yes, sir.
You have residents that are against it and for it. As a commission, if we were denying this, what would you do with the property? If you can't use it for this?
If you didn't, I don't want to.
What can you use for that?
What
can
can I
you
use
that
it
property
for? I could,
We could have farmers markets on
I
it,
could have farmers markets.
have
I could-
random tents go up
I mean,
instead
would
of
you put
just
a house on it? I mean, there was a house on it before,
I know,
right?
but that wasn't, no one's gonna want to buy that lot for a home,
Yeah.
right there with that.
Yeah, I'm
What
driven,
I
I
would
know.
do, if we had to do it, I'd probably throw a bullpen up. And if I'm just shooting you straight forward, I'm gonna build a 24 by 72 bullpen. Now I've got a daggum bovine animal on the property.
Yeah.
I'll throw up,
a feedlot.
no, I can't throw up a feedlot, it's too close to another home, but I'd probably throw up a bullpen.
Okay.
And then I'll throw up a little pavilion, I'd get that approved, obviously,
Yeah.
and then probably just do some farmers markets out of it.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. Got it.
Anything
Thank
else?
you. Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions for staff? Mr. Baker, do you have any questions, further comments?
Wish there was another way to do this. Because that's a great idea, I just don't like the rezoning.
Yeah.
Can you clarify what you were talking about as far as a retail store?
Well,
Zoning is
a retail
down
store is one of the permissible uses.
For agricultural
No,
or for
C1,
C1.
what they're requesting.
That's
Okay.
what I was curious about.
Yeah, well, and then if you read the last sentence, it almost implies that you, selling of meat or produce, fish, et cetera, would be part of it, since we're saying you can't slaughter it or clean it there.
So you're basically saying that if they wanted to do this retail store, they would have to be C1?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's under, the list you're reading is under permissive uses.
Permissive uses, yes.
Under conditional uses, they would have to have a conditional use permit and come back here for that list? Is that correct?
Yes.
So
Oh.
my example earlier
Gotcha.
about, well, they can't, they potentially could put a QT in. Actually, convenience store is a conditional use, so that would have to come back to this body for approval.
Right.
So I stand a little corrected on that, because I was thinking that the rezoning, it still doesn't solve my rezoning nightmare here, but at least it gets me a little bit closer to at least that's not a, perfect condition. They can't go put a restaurant there, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Restaurant, fast foods, that all be conditional.
Yeah, liquor, wine, convenience stores, bed and breakfasts, auto fuel sales, restaurants, that would all be conditional.
Yeah.
So. And then, Robert, this is obviously the rezoning, so this doesn't take into consideration, site plans and buffers and things of that nature, trees and all that kind of stuff, that's down the line, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was some of the other concern that some people had, but.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? You have anything else, Robert?
No, I don't, unless you have questions.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to approve RZ 23-01, which is the rezoning of a property located at 2501 South Highway 94. Current zoning is agricultural district, 5-acre minimum lot size. The proposed zoning, it would be C1 neighborhood commercial district. Recommends the 2030 master plan recommends rural residential and agricultural tourism uses, a parcel size 1.18 acres. Locations on the southwest corner of South Highway 94 and Highway F, 1.2 miles north of Defiance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fromm. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Barr. Okay. Mr. Cleary, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
No.
Mr. Cornwell?
No.
And I vote yes. Okay, motion passes.
And does this go to
Yeah.
in front of, so you might want to tell them that.
Yeah. Now, this is just a recommendation to the county council. This will be on their agenda for the Monday, April 10th, 2023 meeting, which is back in this room at 5 o'clock? What time is the council meeting time? 7 o'clock. Okay. So this will be on their agenda on that Monday, April 10th meeting. And anybody with this application, you're free to go. You don't have to stay. Okay. How do I get, House Road, Summers Road. Okay. The next item on our agenda is zoning map amendment request located at 2486 Somers Road. The application number is RZ 23-02. Property owner is Ruckman Family Trust. Applicants are Aaron Ruckman and Robin Ruckman. The current zoning district is A, agricultural district, 5-acre minimum lot size. The proposed zoning district is R1E, single-family residential district, 7,000 square foot minimum lot size. The 2030 master plan recommends low-density residential, 1 to 4 dwellings per acre. The parcel size is 2.48 acres. The location is on the east side of Somers Road, approximately 0.35 miles north of Highway Double D, adjacent to the city of O'Fallon. This is located in Council District 2. Staff.
Yeah, as mentioned, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
As mentioned, that's the parcel's 2.48 acres. This parcel was created before the requirement for a 5-acre minimum lot size in the ag district. And because of how narrow the lot is for the agricultural district, in 1996, the Board of Zoning Adjustment granted a variance for this structure to encroach within the district's required 40-foot side yard setback. Rezoning of this property at R1E would allow for a 7-foot side yard setback. And given developmental trends, much of the surrounding area has been transitioned to residential zoning. Although R1E does allow 7,000 square foot lots, staff believes that after subtracting street right-of-way and common ground for stormwater and tree preservation purposes, around 7 lots might be possible. There might be an issue creating an entrance onto Somers Road that aligns with either Point Loma Boulevard or Somerset Court. However, the current property owner expresses an interest in just transferring some of their lot to an adjoining property owner and has no plans to plat a residential subdivision. County staff recommends approval as it's consistent with the 2030 master plan.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Charles Wardle, 221 Point West Boulevard, St. Charles, Missouri, 63301. I would like to thank staff that did a great job, and I'm here to answer any questions from the council.
Any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
We'll now open the public hearing for RZ 23-02, which is a zoning map amendment request, rezoning property at 2486 Somers Road from A agricultural district, 5-acre minimum lot size, to proposed zoning district R1E, single-family residential district, 7,000 square feet minimum lot size. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this application? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing, bring this back. Any?
Motion to approve RZ 2302.
Okay, Mr. Fromm made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Shaw made the second. Ms. Kirshner, how do you vote?
2303.
Yes.
Which one is it?
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Back to here.
Yeah, it's got it up there.
Come on. Having to go back and find it every time.
I know. We should go back.
Yeah. Okay, we're at 2303. Okay. Next item on our agenda is zoning map amendment request located at 615 Canals Road. The application number is RZ 23-03. Property owner is Developmental Disabilities Resource Board of St. Charles County. The applicant is Margaret Capo of DDRB of St. Charles County. Current zoning is R1A, single-family residential district, 1 acre minimum lot size. Proposed zoning district is R1D, single-family residential district, 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. The 2030 master plan recommends low-density residential, 1 to 4 dwellings per acre. Parcel size is 3.13 acres. The location is on the north side of Canals Road, opposite High Trail near O'Fallon. This is located in Council District 3. Staff.
Yeah, in 1999, St. Charles County deeded this property to the Developmental Disabilities Resource Board of St. Charles County. The DDRB has subsequently used the single-family residence at this location to house individuals with developmental disabilities requiring 24-hour support. Due to staffing shortages, the house has not been occupied for several years. All the surrounding properties are a part of platted single-family residential subdivisions. Staff believes that should the property be subdivided, it might realistically produce 6 to 7 lots. Addison Park is currently zoned R1D, which is what the applicant is seeking to rezone to, and those lots range from 0.24 acres to 0.61 acres per lot. There's utilities there that would support smaller lots than 3 acres, and staff recommends that we approve as it's consistent with the 2030 master plan.
When this was deeded by the county to the developmental board, was there any restrictions placed on the deed?
Yes. There's a restriction in the deed itself that the St. Charles County would get right of first refusal if it should be sold to a private party that wouldn't be using it for this purpose.
I should mention too, we did receive 7 letters of opposition for this.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
So could this be 7 lots for this use, for the housing of people with disabilities?
No, because the county has standards for group homes. We would consider this a group home, and there are certain distance requirements that can be no closer than, I think, 500 to 600 feet between group homes. I forgot the exact distance, but.
So they just want to develop this and sell it and make money?
They could tell you what their thinking is in terms of future uses. It's not sure exactly how many lots could be platted here, in part because a street, for instance, where would the street come from? If it came off Canals Road, there's sight distance. If there's a street on Canals Road, there may or may not have sight distance, so. I just don't know how many lots is possible, but maybe about 6 or 7.
Okay.
So let me clarify here, if I'm understanding this correctly. Currently, it's owned by the Developmental Disabilities Resource Board. It has been used as a group home in the past.
Right.
They currently have, there's a 1 acre minimum lot size, and they're trying to rezone it so that they can have multiple homes on that property, so basically build a subdivision?
Yes.
We'll ask the applicant.
Yeah, they can
okay.
explain that, but.
Okay. I'm just confused because the letters of opposition appear to be opposed to having a group home there, which is confusing because that's what was already there. So I think there may be some confusion as to what's actually happening.
Okay. The only other thing I would offer real quickly is the Developmental Disabilities Resource Board of St. Charles County is a governmental agency, and they're a taxing entity and a governmental agency. I just wanted to mention that.
Any other questions for staff? Ask the applicant to come forward. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your names and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Peg Capo. I'm the Executive Director of the Developmental Disabilities Resource Board, and I live at 1847 Charity Court in Fenton.
Okay.
And I'm Dan Dozier. I'm on the Developmental Disabilities Resource Board. I live at 119 Arnold Place, St. Charles, Missouri, 63303.
Okay, go ahead.
Pretty much the project has been summarized, and I'll let Dan talk about the board's possible uses. Prior to this home was a group home, and there were several women who lived together for a very long time, very comfortably in the home and in the community. When they needed to move, some of them passed away, and some of them had to move to more restrictive facilities. The home's been empty for 8 years, 9 years. And there are no agencies that have the ability to have staff come to those homes. Those women were supported by staff through a nonprofit agency. So the home is sat empty. It's probably not the best use of the public dollars that were spent there. And so the board's exploring options, none of which, not only is the county have restrictions on group homes, the funding source for those is the state, and they will not allow residential communities or complexes where all of the homes house people with developmental disabilities. So that's not an option.
Go ahead, sir.
The board's just looking at options that are available for use of that property. Obviously, it's a large piece of property. It's not being utilized right now. I think if staffing opportunities would turn around in the county, we would look at doing some other options there. But the house or any future development on our needs, we don't need that 1 acre or 3.5 acre lot size anymore. So we would look at what would be the best use for that property, not only for the board, but for the community as taxpayers.
And what would that use be?
Not sure at this point in time. With rezoning, it gives us some options that we can talk for future projects, but from a developmental disability piece, we can't put additional homes on there. It's just not allowed either through funding or through current zoning requirements. So I know that some of the letters indicated that they were concerned about a whole development or a neighborhood of developmental disability group homes, and that's just not an option.
Okay, and what would you envision is an option then? I mean, you're telling me it's not, but I'm kind of like to get a feel for what is.
It could be sell the whole piece. It could be retain portions of it and sell it and use it for another home. The home that's there right now was designed back when there were multiple residents, 6, 7, 8 residents in a home. That's not the footprint anymore for group homes. It's either a 3 or 4 bedroom house located in a neighborhood. And that's, with Addison Park being right there, it's kind of moving towards a smaller, if the board would decide, it would be some sort of a ranch, smaller home that would have more access for individuals.
Gotcha. And would they, what about supportive staff if they were developed that way?
It would still have to have the staff, and that's the biggest concern right now, is that that property is located pretty far off the major interstate. And so a lot of staff comes from St. Louis County, and it just makes travel more difficult. And that's the only reason it's not occupied now, is the supporting agencies couldn't provide staff to keep people in that home. There is a wait list in the county for people to go into a residential facility. It's just, right now with the employment situation, several agencies have had to close homes because they just can't staff them, especially on the western side of the county.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I mean, if you change the zoning now and you haven't decided, you're changing it to 10,000 square foot minimum. I'm a little confused on why you're doing it now if you don't have a plan for it. What if you decide you want to do something else with it, and you have to go back to a different zoning?
Well, we feel that would be the best use for that property. If it was to be sold, it might increase the market value of that property for the
Yeah, I mean,
county.
it will. That's why I'm saying, if your board's considering it, I mean, it's for sale, is the way I would look at it, and you're going to sell it for residential development to a developer.
Potentially.
And then you have the county that could buy it, because they have the first right of refusal, is that
Right.
correct?
Right.
That's correct.
So once you get the zoning change, the county could tell you can't sell it, because they get the first right.
Right.
What's the first right? Do they buy it at market value back, or they gave it to them, right?
Well, it was actually purchased with.
Oh, it was, okay.
With developmental
I
disability
gotcha.
tax money.
Okay.
And I haven't reviewed that is the first that I heard.
Yeah.
Typically, it would often be whatever the price offered would be off market, but there could be an option there.
So they could buy it, the county could buy it and then try to resell it. They're not gonna do that, but. Yeah, I mean, I just see it, if you're gonna change the zoning, you should be just selling it as residential development. You know, if you can use the money for some other purpose for, because it is sitting vacant. And I've
Sure.
been out there, it's a nice piece of property, really, other than sightlines.
Right.
Getting in and off. And if you have 7 lots there with just a one street maybe going in, and you have houses, I don't see it as much of a problem to do something like that, because the residents behind it have very similar critique. The only thing is the ones on the other side, looks like they got a couple acres and stuff
Right.
like that, so. But, okay, I got it.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. We will now open the public hearing for RZ 23-03. Anyone wishing to speak? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Jim Garofalo, 300 Addiston Point, St. Peters, Missouri, 63376.
Okay.
I'm one of the homeowners in Addiston Park, and, our original concern was, we are going to rezone this to the residential low density with 1 to 4 dwellings. And our concern is we are going to have up to 12 possible dwellings, and we are going to have those dumping out onto Austin, additional traffic and safety concerns. But I agree with Mr. Fromm. Why now? And we don't even know what the purpose of this is going to be. We hear some of this that it could still be a developmental disabilities home, maybe not a group of homes, but if we add that type of facility in, then we add the additional strain on EMS services that have to come and service them as well. So I propose that we don't rezone it until we find an intended purpose, and then we have another discussion. It's right now 1 acre lot minimums. It would seem like we could sell it at 1 acre lots if we're really intending to sell this, and we don't have to rezone it to 10,000 square foot lots. We're not necessarily opposed to having the builder put some homes. I don't necessarily think we want 10,000 square foot houses in there, because even in Addiston Park, it's a 1/4 acre, 0.24 and up. So I think there's more value to them to leave it. And I think we got some neighbors in adjoining properties that may want to buy this as well. So I think there's a lot of issues, but again, why now? It would seem that when we have an intended purpose, then we have the discussion about how to zone it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Isn't Addison have R1D, the same zoning?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Stephen Dara, number 4 Greenbrier Bluffs Court, St. Peters, Missouri, 63376.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, my concern about that property there is, as I just found out that the property's been vacant for 8 years, okay? Who's been paying all the taxes, insurance, grass mowing, such, for the past 8 years? Taxpayers? And has the property been recently deeded over to the Developmental Disabilities Resource recently? I don't know. Does anybody know? When that was deeded over to these people?
1990s.
Huh?
In the 90s.
1990s.
1990.
It was already deeded over?
Yes.
To them? Okay. Well, my concern is, okay, the taxpayers have been fronting the bill for everything but a house payment on this property for 8 years. And it seems like to me that these people here are trying to get this rezoned 10,000 square foot lots instead of 1 acre lots. And that's probably to make more money on the property itself.
Okay. Do you have a question, or?
No, I'm just saying, I'm just
Okay.
wondering why the taxpayers paid all the bills for the past 8 years. Now, they supposedly got it deeded to them back in 1990. Why should they be able to sell that and possibly make a larger profit on it when the taxpayer's been fronting the bill for the last 8 years?
Not our question to answer, sir.
Well, whose is it?
Theirs.
Theirs.
Huh?
It's their
Well,
job.
you know-
And we'll ask them that question when they come
We'll ask
back
them
up.
that.
It's just not right.
We'll ask them when they come back up.
Okay, well, that's pretty much what I got to say.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak regarding RZ 23-03?
You're up. Go ahead.
You solemnly swear or affirm that you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Joel Culp. I live at 214 Addiston Park, St. Peters, Missouri, 63376.
Okay, go ahead.
I live in Addiston Park also. I'm also a firefighter in St. Louis County, and St. Louis County had done a similar thing 10, 12 years ago. They had bought 4 parcels of land and put 4 single-family group homes, 3 to 4 bedroom group homes, in the middle of a subdivision. One way in and one way out. In that 10 to 12 years, the residents that live there, yes, they're developmentally disabled. St. Louis County contracted with a company to manage these parcels of land. They staff them. There's 1 caregiver with every 3 to 4, 5 residents. We are there, as the fire department, we're there at least 3 times a week for medical calls and things like that. It's hard to tell. They're not skilled nursing people. We have found that most of the residents, once St. Louis County contracted with the management company, the people that reside in these residents are too developmentally disabled to be in jail and not enough developmentally disabled to be in a institution. So they tried this avenue. The police are there at least once a day. Several of our people, EMS also, several of our people have been attacked by the people. Constant. It's just a constant, but you wouldn't know it because the house is a 1,200 square foot house on a slab. They're there, they let the residents cook. They're not skilled nursing staff. They are minimum wage babysitters, aides, whatever you want to call them. They're there to make sure that in the event of a fire or whatever, they can get the residents out. Our Addison Park Homeowners Association strongly urges you to, if you rezone this, now they can build those 4, 5, 6 houses on that. They say they don't have a plan. Well, the government's printing money for development, for behavioral development programs.
Well, Joe, they can do 3 right now. If they knock down the house, they can do 3.
They could do 3 right now.
Yeah, I'm just.
Staffing is a problem for the one that they had. What's it gonna be like if they can build 4 to 6 of these parcels? They couldn't staff the one they had.
Okay, we're gonna ask them.
Is that all?
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings from the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Matt Leifer, 1252 Rose Hill Lane, St. Peters, Missouri, 63376.
Go ahead, Matt.
Sir, represent 2 people, 2 parties. First, I'm a trustee with the board from Rose Hill Estates, which is neighboring to this. As stated earlier, I wanted to thank the gentleman for the professional information from St. Louis County. First and foremost, one, without a plan, I agree 100%. If we had something that was definite, this is what our plan is, this is where we're at, we could look at this completely different. But as Mr. Shell was concerned with the previous, is the same thing. If they rezone this, we don't know what they can do, right? They can put 12 lots on this, they can put 8 lots on it, whatever they want to do at that point. They can sell it, they can build it. We have no plan. That's for being a neighbor in a subdivision with on lots, with Addison Place being $500,000 homes, with Rose Hill Estates being $500,000 homes across the street, they could walk in and put in small, undervalued priced houses that would completely diminish the property values for the surrounding people. They also would increase the flow coming out on Canals, right on the corner, right there by, I forgot the name of the subdivision, right across the street. Avondale, which has got a ton of traffic coming in. It's going to increase that as well, which is a huge safety concern there, quite honestly. Secondly, if they do run residential homes and then you have kids there, with one street going in, one street coming out, school buses going in and out of there is going to be tough. You're going to have kids standing along the road at Canals Road, waiting for a school bus. I don't think that's the safest environment for kids to be in these days. So obviously, I'm strongly opposed to the rezoning of this until they do have a plan. And then we can look at it fairly and objectively as to what their purpose is. Secondly, my father, I represent my mom and my dad that live at 607 Knaust, which is the property that's next door to this. And this property line would run 19 feet off of their garage. And would run right down, basically right down where he parks his truck. So there's only a 19-foot leeway there, so that he basically would encapsulate him on his 2-acre lot on that right side, or which would be the north side. So that in and of itself is concerning, considering that it was initially, zoned as basically a 3-acre lot, sold as a 3-acre lot. And that's going to really jeopardize and diminish his property value as well if there's a fence and a property, new 3 or 4 houses going right along his property line. The other issue that I do have with it is that not necessarily the people that are in there as much as it is that just the congestion overall. They say that it was a staffing issue, that they're having issues with the house of staffing. It was dilapidated. They didn't care for the property because they contract this out as well. So the maintenance people, the grass companies, all that stuff is all contracted out. And it was dilapidated anyway. It was going downhill from lack of care. If they start building other homes there, and I don't know the state law, I'm not going to pretend to know the state law, whether they could build 1, 2, 3, if it's group home, not group home. If they build small individual residential houses and put 1 person or 2 people in it, that's legal. It's not a group home. So if they do that and they don't maintenance them, they don't care for them, and 10 years from now, what do they look like? Well, that affects everybody else around there that's got nice property values. That's my, thank you.
Sir. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding application RZ 23-03?
Hi.
Hi. Please raise your right hand.
I don't swear. By my religion, I would promise you I'll be
Well, I
truthful.
say swear or affirm. That's what I say.
Okay, I affirm.
Okay. Well, you raise your right hand. We got to do that.
It's like
I
the
can do
court.
that,
It's like
too.
It's like being in the court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You solemnly affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes.
Okay, state your name and address for the record, please.
Carol Pitzer, 1220 Rose Hill Lane, St. Peters, Missouri, 63376. So, I'm opposed to this proposal to rezone the land, and I'm like kind of disturbed that this meeting is tonight when it's Lenten service, and so many people are not here because they're at church services. I am tired of people coming in, and this is the third time I've been coming here to oppose different subdivisions coming in and downsizing their lots so that the builders can make more money, the sellers can make more money, and they don't live here, and we're the ones that live here. And we care. It's about density and houses tiled on top of all the apartment complexes that have been built and are being built. We've been inundated with all these complexes, and we don't have enough people to fill them without bringing people in from the outside. I don't understand why they're being built. My husband and I, we own 3 3/4 acres in our home, and this will bring down the value of our home. And our family, all of our family lives within a 5-mile radius of this home that's being proposed, or this sale. It'll bring more people in on the taxes. We've paid for our roads all these years, and of course, they've already said more traffic congestion. It'll bring more pressure and responsibility on our fire and police departments, more EMFs, the electromagnetic frequencies that from their homes, and that's unhealthy for everyone. We need to keep some green space. We've got deer going out on the roads being killed all too often. We need to keep some green space and wild land for that wildlife. We don't need to be on top of each other. We've built our homes in this area, and we thought we were insulated because everything was built up around us. And this is not good for I don't see this as being good for us. the homeowners in the area. So I trust you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Lindsay Widener at 1450 Rose Hill Lane, St. Peters, Missouri, 63376.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for hearing me tonight. And my family, we oppose this rezoning for many reasons that have already been stated, so I won't go back over those. But especially just adding on to the gentleman before me, the idea of safety. If I know many of you might not have driven down the road of Knaust, but as you come around Addison Park, it is a blind corner. And as a teacher, I find value in safety. And if there are families to be living in that area, if there is buses or children that are right off there off of Knaust, there is absolutely no way to see. I've almost hit deer running. There's a big white fence right there. It's a blind corner. You can't see around it. School buses having to park there to pick up children. I'm just very concerned about that safety in addition to everything else that's already been said. So
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? You saw,
I've never done this before.
you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jessica Howell. I live at 1450 Rose Hill Lane, St. Peters, Missouri, 63376.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Hi, I've owned my property for over 20 years, and I love it. I've got a problem with what they're asking to change over and put a street in there and put up to 12 homes in there, because I live right next to their property abuts my property. And when Addison Park, I guess what everybody else was speaking, Addison Park went in, they told me that the water runoff from Addison Park would not come on my property. Well, they were right. They backed it up 20 feet, so it ended up on their property, and it goes downhill. I used to have a beautiful backyard that had grass and trees, and right now it's a swamp in the very back of my property because there's no place for the water to go. It comes off of their systems and goes right into my back, and I've got a marsh back there. And so if we add another housing development with streets and houses that is uphill from mine, it's going to be the same thing. They've got to do something with the water. When Knaust was just a street with no, whatever it is they put on the side to get the water to flow in the right place, I had no water on my property. But once they put in those side rails, I got water. When the new subdivision came in, I was promised that that water would not come onto my property, and it does. The back, I've got at least a third of an acre that's a marsh. And I've got kids that try to play back there from other subdivisions, and we're constantly yelling at them to stay out because it's dangerous. Our trees are falling. And so if this new one comes in, it's going to definitely impact my house again, because the last group I stood before said that it wouldn't impact me, and you guys can tell me that, but all they have to do is drop the water on their property and it's going to go downhill. If you put in a street there and houses that doesn't absorb the rain up there, my property in the back is already ruined, and there's nothing I can do because I've come before and asked if there was anything that could do. Nothing that can do. The water just sits there all summer long. We get flies, we get all kinds of critters back there. I don't let my grandchildren play in my backyard because of that. I've got over 3 acres, and I won't let them play in the backyard because the very back of the yard's ruined, and I know my grandchildren. It's mud. They'll head straight for it. So I oppose this because I just don't want any more damage to my property. It's already been damaged enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing for RZ 23-03. Ask the applicant to come back. Anyone have questions for the applicant?
can you answer some of the concerns that they have?
Who maintained the property? I guess that was one of the questions the gentleman had, was,
Yeah, let me, the property was originally bought with tax money that was dedicated for use for people with developmental disabilities. It was titled to the county because of a reason we don't really know, and so when the county titled it back to the DDRB, it came with that condition. It always has been maintained by the DDRB, and dollars are spent doing that. And any dollars that come back to that would go back into the Developmental Disabilities Resource Board pool available for other services for people with developmental disabilities. So I think that answered the question of who gets the proceeds and how does that happen. The multiple homes issue is, I think we've already addressed, but it is there would be no funding for any services provided in homes more than one. And as Dan already mentioned, most of the homes now in the community are 3-bedroom, maybe 4-bedroom homes with no more than 4 people in them. So if there were a home built there, there would be one, and it would be for 3 or 4 residents. But as we've mentioned, it's hard to get staff there, and so that's not practical at this point but the board, the consideration of the board right now is looking at the options that use those county tax dollars the best way they can. There is a need for housing, and so it's been a challenge to consider letting go of property given the cost of property in the community. So there's been all kinds of brainstorm options, including a small development there with typical housing, and that maybe one of those homes would have individuals with developmental disabilities in there. Our experience in that home when there were women living there was not the experience mentioned about fire trucks coming and ambulances coming. I mean, they're typically older individuals who have developmental disabilities, so, but we haven't experienced with any of the homes that we own that increased ambulances and fire trucks and things needed, because the staff that are there are caring for people, they're receiving regular health care like any aging population is, so.
Now, if you were to build a new home, would you intend to demolish the existing facility and then build new?
I think that's an option. Obviously, the facility that's there now would either have to be completely renovated or building a new home, and in today's market, it might be more affordable for tax dollars to be spent on building a new home that's more accessible than that existing home is.
Because Robert, we've had this similar before, and wouldn't this type home have to have a sprinkler system?
I know all about those questions. First, let me back up and give you a little bit of a big picture. A group home is a single-family residence, and it's allowed in any single-family residential neighborhood as long as it meets certain standards, including the fire code, for instance. The county's fire code was recently amended last year, I believe, such that it realigned our building codes and our zoning such that sprinklers do not have to be required in group homes for up to 8 individuals, as long as they have an alternative fire plan, included things like interconnected alarms and things like that. So those standards changed about a year ago to realign our rules. Someone mentioned about a compound of group homes, but under the county's rules, you can have no more than, you can't really cluster them under the county's rules, but they can go within existing single-family neighborhoods. Also, a group home should not be confused with a halfway house. There was some mention of, I forgot what the wording was, but too disabled for prison or something like that. But it is explicitly in our definition, a group home is not a halfway house. And let me just mention, under the bad old days of zoning from years ago, group homes were considered to be, they were classified as like institutional facilities. And so 4 people living together in wheelchairs might have to live in a commercial zoning district or an industrial zoning district and could not be integrated within society. And that was not only wrong, but the courts have struck that down. And they've said, local communities, you have to address that. So I think the group home question is in part because the current owner has operated a group home here in the past. But we really have to think about the proposed zoning, which is single-family residential, 1 acre lots, which is exactly what the neighborhood right next door is zoned. That's really what this is about in my mind. And I'm sorry to go off on a long
You're fine.
explanation, but I wanted to share those points.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicants?
It seems like, if I can just kind of sum up what we've talked about all along, it seems like what we're looking at here is that this is not a convenient location for a group home, which is what you've used it for in the past. It was not a convenient location.
Right.
So at this point, since you are spending all this taxpayer money to maintain it, you're trying to recoup some of that same taxpayer money to go back for the same purpose that the original money was used for. So it's not like a private organization trying to just make money. It's taxpayer money that you're trying to recoup for the same purpose that it was originally for. And you're looking to sell this, probably to sell it to a developer who's going to build 7, 8, 9 homes on it, most likely, it sounds like. And you may potentially keep one of the lots for one home with 3 to 4 individuals, but you wouldn't, probably not, because you've already said it's not a convenient location for you, and you don't have the staffing. So likely, they would be private, single-family homes, similar to Addison Park.
Yeah, the only reason to retain a lot, if that scenario was to come up, is simply because the price of property in St. Charles County, would prohibit maybe the development of another home.
So basically, the owner being your
Right.
board has nothing to do with this. This is really just about, should this particular property be allowed to be rezoned to create houses just like the neighboring subdivision of Addison Park? That's really the question that's
That's
before us
correct.
here today.
That's correct.
Can I kind of agree with Craig. I mean, it just seems to, if I own this property, what I would do is offer it for sale and let a home builder come in and tell you what zoning they want, and then we have a plan to look at. To me, you're kind of bringing the cart before the horse, where you're asking for a rezoning and hoping to sell it there. I don't think the sales price is going to change whether we rezone it or not. The sale price, you could still sell it at a potential rezoning, because that's in our master plan. I think what the concern is the Development Disabilities Resource Board. So,
I mean, I think that as a real estate agent, that you absolutely would get more money for.
well, yeah, but that's a
7 or 8,
potential, I
9,
mean,
10
you may get
lots.
a developer that doesn't want R1D zoning. So if you rezone it now, you're stuck with that rezoning. And what I'm saying is have a developer, I mean, put it for sale, have a developer come and create a plan with they'll make a contingent on getting the rezoning that they want, that they need, so we can actually see something. I mean, right now, we're just rezoning, and I'm looking at the adjacent lots. The adjacent lots in that Edison, I mean, their smallest one that butts is .36 acres. So if you got a 10,000 square foot lot, it's pretty small compared to the surrounding lots.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're gonna do.
Any other-
only 10,000.
Sir?
Sir.
Shh. Public here is closed, okay. Any other questions of the applicant?
Well, I guess I got a question. If we deny this, do they have to wait a year to come back?
They'd have to wait a year if it's the exact same proposal, but if they would propose a different zoning district, they would not have to wait a year.
I mean, because you could take my recommendation for what it's worth. I would table it and I would offer the property for sale and try to get a home builder to buy it and see what zoning they want. And so we had a plan, but that's my thoughts.
Can I clarify that just a little bit? I think that's based on if the county council should deny it.
The council should.
Yeah,
okay.
that's, at that point, they'd have a.
So we can
they'd
deny it.
have to wait a
and
year,
it
yeah.
is- Yeah, okay.
We could approve it here and it still can be denied.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the recommendation.
But if the council denied it, they'd have to wait a year.
If it was the exact same zoning.
They could do less intense, so.
Yeah.
But if it was the same level of zoning or more intense, it would.
Okay.
But wouldn't it be a little bit less risky if they just withdrew this, or we continued it?
I think that's up to them.
Yeah, but I mean, so we're talking options, and they're listening, and so, so that's a possibility.
And I'm assuming you guys have talked about this at your board ad nauseum or something.
There's 9 folks on the board,
Yeah.
and those change every year, or
Yeah.
potentially every year,
Right.
by the appointment by the county council. So there's been discussion for the last several years on what are our options.
Yeah, what are we gonna do with this property?
Exactly,
I mean,
and,
I've been on boards like that too, and you don't know what to do with a piece of property that you
right.
have. So,
It's just, if we were gonna build a new home on that property, we would not need an acre lot for that type of a development. So, it just seemed like it was the best step going forward for that property to be rezoned into the smaller lots that are adjacent to Addison Park and the other neighborhoods across the street.
And then that would give you the potential to sell each of those lots individually to either, or as a whole, or
Right.
each individually to someone who wanted to build a private residence there.
That's correct,
So it would give you basically just more opportunities for how to dispose of it.
exactly.
So if you were to either be denied or to withdraw your application, and, well, let's just say, this is a question for Robert, if you were to be denied, then you had a home builder or a developer that wanted to come before our group with a site plan, with a plat, and all those sorts of things, would they have to wait a year, or would that be a different applicant, so it would be a different situation, even though it was the same piece of land?
good question.
The way it reads, my recollection is if it's the same application, in other words, if it's a repetitive application with the same zoning district, then it would need to wait a year. And that, should the county council fail to act and for approval, and someone would have to wait 1 year to submit the same application. That's the way I remember.
Wouldn't matter. Answer is
So even if it was a different applicant and they came with
right.
a specific
Unless they bought
site
the
plan, plat,
Right.
and, I mean, that's what I'm saying, if they were looking to buy the property
Oh, they'd have to
and
buy
trying
it.
to,
They'd actually have to own it then.
oh, that's right,
Yeah.
likely to happen.
Yep,
You're not gonna buy it until you know for sure you can use it.
right.
Right.
When I think when we discussed this with Robert, as I understand it, and I may have this wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, the 10,000 square foot lots are the same as Addison Park, and yet Addison Park's development chose not to have those small lots. So the developer who may want to build would then have the flexibility to do anything larger than that as well. So that was the intention with that, was to keep it according to the county plan at the 10,000 square foot was the purpose, not with any intention of a number of houses going on.
Robert, isn't there also kind of a medium zoning that is like 1 to 4 houses per acre?
7,500.
Because this one's 10,000 square feet, but I was thinking there was one that was like a quarter acre or larger.
So 20,000 square foot and a 10,000 square foot.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
10,000 square foot is basically a quarter acre, yeah.
Yeah. R1C would be 15,000 square feet.
So they could come back.
I mean, a quarter acre is a pretty good sized lot. It's, I mean, we're not doing 10 per acre.
R1B is 20,000 square foot minimum, lot minimum. R1C is 15,000 square foot lot minimum. Am I just repeating it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
See, I guess that's.
There's also like tree preservation that they'd have to take into account for, so it's not like they could just.
Stormwater runoff, all
Yeah.
of that.
It wouldn't just be an empty lot to maximize how many lots they can put in. They'd have to meet those requirements.
Well, and with the stormwater runoff, they may have to, I mean, oftentimes when they come before us with the plats and everything, they have to dig a retention basin to make sure that the water doesn't go into neighboring.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, all of that is part of the platting process.
Right.
I guess my question is, if it's rezoned for this density, they would have to put in a public street, right? It's not gonna be private, so you're gonna have 50-foot dedication going in there, so you're gonna have some limitations by that lot size as it is right now to get a lot of lots in there.
Right, that could be private.
Yeah,
So-
it could be a private street built to public standards, but yes, I mean, it's, what you're saying is you'd have to take out that portion for the cul-de-sac and the right-of-way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further
Not gonna get
questions?
12 homes in there.
No.
No way.
Any further questions?
No, I mean, staff, Robert, it looks like your staff looked at this and it's consistent with the future land use map regardless of who's making the application, correct? So,
That was our thinking, but we'll want to present it for the public's input and your thoughts as well.
okay.
Any other questions for the applicants? No? Thank you. We'll bring RZ 23-03 back to the commission for consideration. Any additional comments, questions of staff, et cetera? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion to approve RZ 23-03. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Mr. Cornwell made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Clary. Ms. Kushner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
No.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
No.
And I vote no. Okay, it passes 5-8,
5-3.
or 5-3, rather. 5 and 3 is 8, so yeah, 5-3. Okay, it's been a long night already.
So again, this goes before county council?
Yeah. This be on the council, county council's agenda on Monday, April the 10th, 2023.
This is no guarantee that anyone is going to be allowed to build anything. They still have to come through the plating process. They still have to go through the subdivision process and everything else.
And the,
Yeah.
deciding if the county wants to buy it back. Okay, next up, and you're free to go. Brad Goss is he next? Oh, amendment to a conditional use permit. He's way down the list.
Street or something, that's what his, I think. Weird. Well, maybe not.
Next on our agenda is a zoning map amendment request located at 105 Lake Village Drive and Village Lane. Application numbers RZ 23-04. Property owners are Alexander Richardson Weber LLC and Alexander Richardson Partnership. Applicants are Andrew Alexander and Terry Alexander. Current zoning is A Agricultural District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District. Proposed zoning is RF Riverfront District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District. The 2030 Master Plan recommends agricultural and parks and open space land uses. The rezoning area is 51.32 acres of 2 parcels totaling 86.04 acres. The location is approximately 3,100 feet east of the intersection of Lake Village Drive and Washoe Road, adjacent to the Mississippi River. Located in Council District 6. Staff.
This property is known as the Yacht Club of St. Louis. Its original zoning, designated in 1959, was the REC Recreational District. Among other permitted uses, this property was allowed to develop single-family residences, recreational clubs, boat docks, restaurants, boat repair, tourist courts or motels, and cabins with indoor toilet facilities and running water. In 1973, the county redefined the district as RR Recreational Residential District, with largely the same uses being permitted. In 1999, the county rezoned the property to A Agricultural. The recreational uses that were permitted under the RR zoning were reclassified as conditional uses. Under the current zoning, any expansion of the services offered with the marina, any marine gas services, restaurants, outdoor recreation, and campgrounds would be conditional uses. Most of these uses would be made permissive under the proposed RR Riverfront zoning district. The applicant is requesting the rezoning of 51.32 acres of the total of approximately 86 acres that is under their ownership. The area to be rezoned is shown in the maps that are attached to this case. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from A, agricultural, to RF, riverfront. The riverfront district was envisioned for the county's marinas and to allow them to develop uses that are considered complementary to a marina use with only staff approvals. The applicant is desiring to develop a campground on the property that will consist of small cottages or cabins that county council recently approved. This would be a permissive use underneath of this zoning district. Staff has received no letters for this application, and staff does recommend approval.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, I'll ask the applicant to come forward. Oh, well, look who's here. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ellie Marr, 21 Streamside Court, St. Charles, Missouri, 63303.
Go right ahead.
Well, as staff has mentioned, this rezoning district is a unique district for marinas and riverfront properties. The applicant is asking to only rezone the portion that they currently use for the marina. The farmed ground will remain agricultural. And they also mentioned that right now they have to come forward for a conditional use permit every time they develop. There are several conditional use permits already on this property. They do intend to try, I'm going to say try. They're going to try like one cottage to start under the campground, which would become a permissive use if this was rezoned. If it is successful, possibly two, but it would be a small development that they are considering. I am their floodplain development consultant, so I would be able to answer any questions in regard to that development.
Any questions for the applicant? No, Robert, I have a question of this bundle of CUPs, would those, if we rezone, would any of those go away?
They would not disappear because they were legally established, but.
But would there be a need for them?
There may not be a need for them any longer because a lot of those uses would be permissive uses
Okay.
in the district.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Any questions about floodplains? She can give you the answer.
Why do we have them?
Thank you.
She was in over my head when she used to do it, so.
Yeah. Oh, where am I at here? We'll now open the public hearing for RZ 23-04. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this application? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing for RZ 23-04. Anybody have any additional comments for the applicant or questions for the applicant? No? Okay, we'll bring this back to the commission for consideration. Any
Motion to
questions?
approve.
Mr. Franz made a motion to approve application RZ 23-04. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cornwell made a second. Mr. Shell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Moving right along. Okay. The next item is RZ 23-05, which has been continued to the April meeting. Next on our agenda is conditional use permit request located at 3133 Hopewell Road. Application number CUP 22-15. The property owner is Hearst Investments LLC. Applicant is James Hearst for BLCS LLC. The property current zoning is A, agricultural district. Conditional use request A, a lawn care service, and B, an outdoor storage yard for boats. Parcel size is 3 acres. This is located on the west side of Hopewell Road, approximately 0.7 miles south of Dyer Road, adjacent to the city of O'Fallon, located in Council District 2, staff.
This is a former St. Charles County Highway Department site with a salt dome. Y'all are familiar with it on Hopewell. The property is currently zoned A, agriculture, and the requested uses of a lawn care service and a boat storage yard are both conditional uses in the A agricultural zoning district. The property has been before Planning and Zoning Commission twice before. In June of 2010, the property was granted a nursery and boat storage yard conditional use permit. In July of 2012, they were granted an extension to allow for another 2 years to finish the requirements to open the business. The applicant never did complete the requirements and the CUP did expire. In 2017, a second CUP was granted to the property to operate a boat storage yard. The property owner at the time did obtain an approved site plan for the development and did complete most of the site plan requirements. As they did not obtain a final approval on the site plan, the use was not established and the CUP expired in 2019. This applicant is applying for a lawn care service and a boat storage yard. For our lawn care service, the agricultural district CUP states that this use is to be allowed as a conditional use if all lawn care materials and any related equipment or vehicles are required to be stored within an accessory structure. The applicant is showing a lean-to structure to be built alongside the existing salt dome. This would have to be enclosed to be able to store any material or vehicles there. For this particular CUP, the lawn care service, we do have the 5 questions that we have to answer for conditional use permits. Question 1 is, would establishing, maintaining, or operating a conditional use, this particular conditional use, be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare? Staff believes that given the strict definition of lawn care service and the standard requirement that all storage must be indoors, staff would recommend a finding that the proposed use would not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. Question 2 is, would the conditional use injure the enjoyment and use of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted? The operation of this business could potentially lead to noise complaints if the equipment was operated or serviced on-site outside of normal business hours. Staff recommends limiting the hours of the operation to mitigate any negative effects of this business on the surrounding neighborhoods. 3, would the conditional use injure the aesthetic and/or scenic value of the vicinity? The property will not be modified substantially from its current state, given that all storage must be indoors. The new construction on site would likely be similar to an agricultural building, which would fit in with the surrounding structures. This use would not cause injury to the aesthetic or scenic values of the vicinity. Number 4 would be, would the conditional use substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood? Staff has no data to support or refute that argument. Number 5, would the conditional use impede the normal and orderly development of improvements of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the district? The 2030 master plan calls for low-density residential uses, and the property is already commercial in nature. This would allow for the property to provide a service to a new residential development in that area. Staff feels that it would not impede the normal and ordinary development and improvement of the surrounding properties for uses permitted in the zoning district. Staff recommends approval of this conditional use with the following conditions. 1, a site plan substantially complying with the concept plan attached hereto as part of the Exhibit B shall be submitted to and approved by St. Charles County Community Development Department. 2, all activities under this conditional use shall comply with the definition of lawn care services defined in Section 405.060 of the Unified Development Ordinance and as determined by St. Charles County. 3, all equipment, materials, and vehicles for business other than employee vehicles shall be stored indoors. 4, the lawn care service shall not operate between the hours of 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. 5, the operation of equipment outdoors other than to load and unload the equipment shall not be permitted. 6, any exterior lighting on the site shall use full cutoff fixtures. And 7, no approved conditional use shall become active until all conditions of the approval shall have been met as determined by St. Charles County. The applicant is also requesting a conditional use permit for boat storage. They are proposing having up to 51 boats in storage at any one time. They are proposing a 6-foot-tall separation fence between this use on the south half of the property and the lawn care service on the northern half of the property. The applicant will have a fence on all sides of the boat storage area. The applicant is proposing to have slats in the fence along the eastern property line and a black screening fabric on the southern property line. Staff will note, county ordinance requires that the fencing be consistent in material for the entire fencing on the property. And again, the 5 questions was number 1, which is would establishing the use cause any kind of harm to the public safety, welfare, or health? County staff feels that finding the operation of this boat yard should not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. The yard could cause some traffic concerns with this stretch of Hopewell Road, as it has is 1 lane in each direction. The entrance should be set back far enough to allow the vehicle pulling the boat and the boat itself to get completely off the road so it doesn't block the road when it's trying to get in the property. 2, the conditional use, would the conditional use injure the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for uses already permitted? Staff does not view this use as injurious to the community for the purposes already permitted. The site was previously used as a county highway maintenance yard for heavy equipment, and the proposed use would involve passive storage of boats retrieved by passenger vehicles. 3, would the conditional use injure the aesthetic and or scenic values in the vicinity? The property would not be modified substantially from its current state, as the storage yard has already been constructed. New construction on the site will likely be similar to an agricultural building, which would fit in with the surrounding structures. Would the conditional use substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood? Staff has no data to support or refute the proposed use impacting property data or property value. And 5, would the conditional use impede the normal and ordinary development and improvement of the surrounding properties for uses permitted in the zoning district? The 2030 master plan calls for low-density residential uses, and the property is already commercial in nature. This would allow for the property to be used in its current state. Staff recommends approval of this conditional use with the following conditions. That 1, a site plan substantially complying with the concept plan attached here 2 as part of Exhibit B shall be submitted to and approved by the St. Charles County Community Development Department. 2, the storage of boats shall not exceed 51 boats at any one time. 3, any exterior lighting on site shall use full cutoff light fixtures. 4, that all material fencing shall be consistent on all sides of the property. 5, that there shall be sufficient space left at the entrance to allow for a vehicle pulling a boat to be fully off of Hopewell Road before any gate is installed. And 6, no approved conditional use shall become active until the conditions of approval have been met.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I only see 4 conditions in this packet here. Like pulling off of Hopewell Road, that whole part, I don't see here. I know that was one of the concerns from a few people that voiced opposition, was traffic concerns, and I only see 4 on here. So I just want to make sure when we do approve it, those are on there.
So on the staff report that was posted up on the county's website, I show 6 for the CUP 22-15.
Okay. Mine only has 4. So.
Yeah.
Mine only has 4.
Yeah, what we have here just has 4.
Okay.
The one that
That's
I
interesting.
just pulled off on the thing has 7 on 2215A and 4 on 2215B.
Apparently there was an error in that staff report.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that those 2 points, the 5 and 6 were 2 points that I saw were in opposition, so I just wanted to make sure that we covered those for sure. So.
Any other questions for staff? Ask the applicant to come forward. You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings, or the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record.
James Hurst, 241 Giles Road, Troy, Missouri, 63379.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Proposing I'd like to get a conditional use permit for my boat storage and for the lawn care facility there. I understand one of the opposition letters you guys got was about the opening and closing the gate. If you look at the plan that we submitted to you guys and you guys approved, I think we're moving it back 40 foot. I think you guys require 35. We got it back 40 foot to get a full truck and trailer completely off the road into safe to open and close the gate for you guys. The screening, I don't know why it says slats on there. It's all going to be the fabric all the way around it, like currently it is now. The only side that's not on it is on the north side. The homeowner there asked me if I could avoid it, to not put it up there yet, so I haven't put it on that side yet, but if you guys require it, they'll be okay with it. Outside that, do you guys have any questions for me, or? I mean, we plan on operating between 7 and 6. If it gets to be dark outside, we'll be quiet with engines. There won't be any noise complaints, anything else.
That's going to be my question. Right now, one of the conditions recommended by staff is you shall not operate between the hours of 8 PM and 6 AM.
Yes, sir.
Where's your service area? I mean, we're daylight, we're soon going to be daylight to 8 o'clock. You still mowing at 8 o'clock? I mean, you're not going to be mowing here. You're going to be someplace else.
Yes, sir.
When you come back.
No, so they're talking about when we come back and unload the equipment at nighttime. The guys will be back offloaded by 6. I don't like working 24 hours a day. I grew up doing that, and I'm just not a fan of it anymore. So I like to have an outside life, a life that I can go home and relax a little bit. So 6 o'clock, everybody's done.
So you don't mind the 8 PM to 6 AM, no activity on the property?
No, sir, no, absolutely not. 8 PM, 6 AM, no.
Okay, so
I'm good with that.
you're not pulling, it's after 6 in the morning when your guys are showing up and loading up the trucks?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Normal start time 7. When it gets to be 150 degrees outside, they might start at 6:30. But it will not be before 6 AM.
What about the boat owners? Will they be limited on when they can return their boats then?
The boat storage, since there's only 51 parking spots in it, and it's gonna be residential, just family vehicles, bring them in and out, I don't propose to have a time limit on them. I like to have them 24-hour access like all other boat storages do. If it's something you guys want me to put time limits on, it's something we can talk about and just consider, but I don't see a purpose for it. There's 51 boats in there, or there's gonna hopefully be 51 boats in there. It's not like it's gonna be a massive ordeal. The traffic concern, I think you guys approved to put, it's over 1,000 homes in those fields coming down Hopewell, I believe. Don't hold me to that. 51 boats isn't going to cause any difference, that traffic coming down Hopewell Road there, compared to those homes that are going in those fields now. So,
Now, if I pull into your property, is there going to be my boat storage, is that going to be gated and secured?
yes, sir.
So I have a boat and I'm coming in from the lake at 10:30. Do I punch in a code? I have a key?
Yes, sir. There'll be a 24-hour access pad, as long as you guys will code 24-hour access. There'll be security cameras that we can, see it. There's proposed dark sky lighting that's pointed downward to reduce the light pollution on the approved plan as well. So it's a lighted area, it's safe, it's secure. There's a fence all around the property. So the gate will be moved back at least 40 foot, so it gives us plenty of room to get off the road, out of traffic.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I would just say is, why limit just to boats, right? I mean, what if somebody calls you and their HOA doesn't have an RV and they can't have an RV? Like,
So these guys can answer it, but also I'm understanding that it's zoned agriculture. So underneath agriculture, conditional use permits, it's allowed to be boat storage, not RV storage. So I'm kind of limited on that, but with us being that close to Lake St. Louis and all those homes going in, I'm not concerned about getting 51 boats in there.
Yeah, there'll be 51 boats.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody else has waiting lists and everything else. I mean, it's a golden opportunity for me, and I'm just trying to seize it and take advantage of it. It's safe, secure. It's not going to diminish anybody's property values or anything else. If anything, it's going to help attract more people to this new neighborhood you guys are putting in up there. They have somewhere close to store their boat, somewhere safe, secure, well-lit, everything else, so.
Any other questions for the applicant?
You're keeping it gravel, it's not gonna be, is it gonna be paved at all?
There's a section in the back when the county owned it that's actually asphalt, back there by that big salt dome. I forget the actual measurement on it, but it's actually on the drawing there.
Yeah.
There's a section of it that is actually asphalted, but not very much. I don't remember the actual number, so I apologize. But I have no intent to asphalt that. That'd be very expensive.
Yep.
So there's no fence on the north side?
There's a fence there on the north side between me and, I forget the address, but the residential house there. There's a fence there. There's just no screening there right now, because they asked me not to put
I'm
it
just
up.
looking at this, your site plan, I'm not seeing a fence.
Which site plan are you looking at?
I don't know, the one that's.
Well, there's several of them.
Concept plans,
Concept plan.
G20.
There is a drawing on there.
Yeah, there's a fence, it's the X's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a fence? I don't see it.
Yes, sir.
It's hard to see. It's hard to see, I see it there.
There's so much stuff on those
Oh,
drawings,
okay,
it's ridiculous.
it's hidden by the,
Yeah.
and that's a chain link that you're gonna put slats in?
No, sir, it's gonna be fabric, that way so it's consistent all the way around the property.
Well, the fabric, okay.
Yeah, fabric. For some reason, it says slats on there, and I apologize about that. The engineer and I spoke, it's gonna be fabric, that way so it's consistent around the whole property there, 'cause I know it's one of your guys' conditions.
And how high is that fence?
6 foot.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
That's it?
We'll now open the public hearing for CUP 22-15, which is a conditional use permit request located at 3133 Hopewell Road. The request is to allow for a lawn care service and an outdoor storage yard for boats. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this application? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. Anyone have any additional questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we'll bring this back to the commission for consideration. Now, we need to add the condition on B.
Yeah, vote for A separately.
Yeah,
Vote for
yeah.
A, B separately, but then
Yeah.
you're gonna wanna make sure you have.
And we'll do that for B. Okay, so we're going to have to vote, take two votes. First, Chair will entertain a motion to approve application CUP 22-15A,
So moved.
which is a conditional use request for a lawn care service. Mr. Clary made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was that, John? Mr. Show. Okay. Ms. Kirschner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
And Mr. Baker?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, now. Okay, so do we, since,
We need to make a motion.
we need to make a motion to amend,
Include all six.
Okay.
or
You have
just,
it on record what was-
yeah.
Do I need to read them again?
What, just read the
Everybody?
5 and 6.
Yeah.
that you did.
Okay, so 5 and 6 was, there shall be sufficient space left at the entrance to allow for a vehicle pulling a boat to be fully off of Hopewell Road before any gate is installed. And number 6 was, no approved conditional use shall become active until all conditions of the approval shall have been met as determined by St. Charles County.
I'm sorry.
So that's 4.
Four was on there.
Okay, so then all fencing materials shall be consistent on all sides of the property.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve CUP 22-15B with the additions of 4 and 5 from your list.
well, that'll cover us. Okay, so there's a motion been made to pass application CUP 22-15B to include the recommendations by staff, the 6 recommendations by staff. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Fromm made the second. Mr. Cornwell, you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Keys up. Next on our agenda is a conditional use permit request, Ebert Lane. Application is CUP 22-17. The property owner is Lotry, is that right?
Luter Prairie Farms, LLC.
Luter Prairie Farms LLC. Applicant is DJM Ecological Services Incorporated. The property zoning is A Agricultural District. Conditional use request amending ordinance 5-19A to allow for the expansion of the approved use of a wholesale-only nursery onto an adjoining property. It's located on the west side of the terminus of Ebert Lane, adjacent to the city of Wentzville. This is located in Council District 2. Staff.
Okay, This property was originally zoned A Agricultural District in 1959. The property was granted a conditional use permit, CUP 655, on December 20th, 2005 for a nursery. On October 30th, 2017, conditional use permit CUP 17-12 was approved through ordinance 17-097. The conditional use permit was to expand the business to the adjacent parcel to the south and to add a large pole barn type structure to house all the nursery's equipment. The property owner never submitted a site plan for this and as such never established this expanded use. This CUP expired on October 30th, 2019. In March of 2018, the property owner obtained a land use permit, or a land disturbance permit, to perform grading to establish a pad for the new pole barn structure, and this permit was completed in June 20th of 2022. This property was granted its first conditional use permit in 2005 for a wholesale nursery. The original CUP, CUP 655, was approved by ordinance 05-198. This ordinance contained 3 conditions for the development. A site plan must be submitted and approved by the St. Charles County Community Development Department. The north side of the property must have a vegetative buffer along the barbed wire fence, and the nursery must be wholesale only. Let's see here. All right, in October of 2017, well, we did that already, sorry, excuse me. This conditional use permit request is to approve the use of that area for the business and to allow for the construction of a few buildings to allow for the production of more plant material. As this use has been operating at this site for many years, the expansion of this use, as proposed, should be able to be done with a minimal impact on the surrounding neighbors. Staff is proposing the addition of several conditions to limit the impact of the growth of this business. Staff is recommending that outdoor storage shall be limited to the equipment and materials used in the operation of the nursery. The staff is suggesting if the conditional stormwater facilities constructed for the nursery have been compromised, then a maintenance will be required per the existing stormwater agreement with the county for these properties. A site plan conforming to the concept plan attached as part of Exhibit B shall be submitted to and approved by St. Charles County Community Development Department. The north side of this property must have a vegetative buffer along the barbed wire fence. The nursery must be wholesale only. A type 3 landscape buffer along the western, eastern, and southern property lines, as well as all the trees illustrated on the approved site plan, must be maintained in a healthy condition with diseased and dead trees replaced. Number 7 is all automobiles, trailers, and equipment shall remain assembled and in functional condition. If they are not, or if they are road-going vehicles, they shall be licensed and road-ready at all times unless stored indoors. All exterior lighting shall use full cutoff fixtures, and no conditional use shall be active until such time as all conditions of approval have been met and all outstanding property maintenance violations have been corrected. And do take into mind, this is an amendment to an existing CUP. This is not a new CUP, so the approval standards are a little bit different here. Basically, as our staff report laid out for you, you guys have to come to a conclusion as to whether this falls in, in line with what the previous approval was for. That about right? Robert on that? Okay.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
Just to elaborate on what Mark said, it's a conditional use permit amendment. It's not a question of the original conditional use permit. That's not what we're here to discuss tonight, but whether or not the conditions should be amended to allow the expansion onto the southern lot. So they have certain development rights in place for the carrying out a nursery on the northern portion.
Okay.
Robert, do you know if that Ebert Lane, is that a private street or is
It's
that?
private.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it, it's quite a bumpy ride back there.
Is privately maintained.
Any other questions for staff?
You don't get too much for $100 a year for maintenance.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Ask the applicant to come forward.
You have 2 of us.
How you doing, Mr. Cross?
I'm doing well.
You solemnly swear or affirm you will tell the truth, you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings from the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your names and address for the record.
My name is Brad Goss, 120 South Central, Suite 700, St. Louis, Missouri, 63105.
John Wingo, 2205 Ebert Lane, Wentzville, Missouri, 63385.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we are here to request an amendment to the existing conditional use permit for DJM Ecological Services, Inc. That exists on Ebert Lane. The property is outlined in yellow and the green star. You can see it on the map. To the north of us is Wentzville, and that's the Stone Meadows subdivision. And to the east of Ebert Lane. There are houses on Ebert Lane, but just beyond that is the Wentzville R4 School District complex. It's elementary, middle school, and high school that are in that school facility. Around us are single-family residential homes or agricultural property that is not being used for any particular use other than agricultural. Our site is 7.07 acres. We are at the terminus of Ebert Lane. Ebert Lane is private, and my client has been maintaining it for the last 18 or so years, ever since they've been there since 2005, which is when they came to St. Charles County from outside of the county. They formed this business back in 1987. It is an ecological restoration company. So what they do is they restore wetlands, restore prairie systems, restore woodlands. They green stormwater infrastructure. John will describe it much better than I will. But that is what the core business of this company is. Now, having said that, when this company first started business in 2005, the uses were all on this site. That changed. And we'll kind of go through that narrative, but in 2018, the company acquired a facility in the city of St. Louis over on West Florissant Avenue, and they moved virtually all of their uses there. So their administrative facilities are over there. If anyone calls in for an order, wants some design done, it's done out of there. The repair of equipment, all done out of there. And the other thing that they did is that their employees are now direct report, if they're field employees, to the site. Nobody's coming to Ebert Lane. The only people that are coming to Ebert Lane are 2 employees, and those are they're farmers. And what this site really now is, it's a perennial flower farm and seed farm for the Ecological Restoration Service. And so what we're asking for tonight is to be able to put another greenhouse in the site and a storage facility for the equipment. And we'll show you where that is. But in terms of intensity of uses, you don't have an intense use here. You have much less intensity of uses than you had in 2017. In 2017, Planning and Zoning Commission and the City and the County Council found that the conditional use permit conditions were met with respect to impact on the neighborhood, et cetera. So we'll walk through all of that. So the site is zoned agricultural, as is everything around us. We do have the CUP 655 that was granted, and then there was another conditional use permit 1712 that was granted, and then what we are seeking tonight is to be able to have some additional structures on the southern part of our nursery. Back in 2005, the original conditional use permit was passed. The conditions were a site plan. The north side of the property had to have a vegetative covering along a barbed wire fence. You heard that again tonight. That's already in place. And there were to be wholesale sales only with the nursery. And of course, those conditions were complied with. Then in 2017, there was an amendment requested, and the amendment was in conjunction with wanting to build a pole barn on the southern part of the site, the same area of the site that we're talking about tonight. And the commission and the county council considered the conditions necessary to approve that conditional use permit, and they also found various findings of fact. And the findings of fact showed at that time that there were no violations or complaints recorded from the nursery. The operation of the nursery was not injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties. In terms of property values, nearby homes had increased in their sales price since 2005, and the use does not then diminish property values around it. And the expansion was found not to be something that's going to be injurious or affect the aesthetic or scenic values around the property. Now, as I said, that concept plan and pole barn eventually was not built. A site plan was submitted to the county, and it was going through the process of comments, and that was around 2018, and at that time, county was somewhat short-staffed, and as the comments were going back and forth, the decision was made, well, you can we'll go forward with your land disturbance permit application. And we will not worry about the rest of the comments on your site plan. We'll get those when you do the construction plans. As I said, when they went out to bid the pole barn, what they found was it was about 4 times more expensive than what they thought it would be, so they didn't go ahead with the pole barn. And so the site plan, ultimately, they didn't finish those last comments because it was, quite frankly, irrelevant, but there was one submitted. So with respect to the land disturbance permit, they did complete the land disturbance permit requirements in 2022. Paul Mueller, who's the erosion control inspector, in that email, you can see he is confirming that they've met the conditions of their land disturbance permit. And in particular, what they did was they put a prairie area in that 4/10 of an acre area that it's outlined in yellow. That's the area on the right that the staff is requesting that we plant a bunch of trees in and put a type 2 buffer. Since that is already a restored prairie area, we would request that we not have to do that. The neighbor, Vernon Jordan, Johnson, who owns the property there that we're next to, has submitted a letter saying, I don't need a vegetative buffer. So the neighbor isn't looking for a vegetative buffer. It will disturb work that we've already performed, so we would request that we not have to do that because we don't think it's useful. We do have a restored prairie. And the other thing that I think is notable about what Mr. Mueller said is, look, all the planning that you're doing on this site, it could be considered ag. And that, in fact, is what really the site's used for now. It essentially is a farm. So, as I said, that we did have letters from John Jackson and Vern Jackson, both of them submitted saying that they don't need additional screening. Mr. John Jackson's property is to the south. There are substantial trees on that property. And then Vern Jackson, who's to the east, where we put the prairie, and he is also saying, I don't need to have a vegetative buffer. There's adequate natural vegetation in that area. As far as the requirements for the conditional use permit are concerned, there are 4 requirements that we have gone through, and the council and the commission went through back in 2017. We are a nursery that requires a conditional use permit. But when you look at the conditions that we not do something that is detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare, our use is essentially agricultural. And all the other uses that were taking place in 2017 no longer take place there. They've been moved off-site. So we're even less impactful than we were before. Similarly, with respect to not being injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity, again, the county found back in 2017 that we were not injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property, and our use has become less intensive than it was back then in 2017. It's just basically growing perennial plants and seeds. And then we are not to substantially diminish and impair the property values within the neighborhood. Again, county found in 2017 that that had not been the case. Homes on adjoining properties are selling today for $250,000, and our use has been there right next to them the entire time. So we would maintain that our use is not diminishing property values. And in fact, the additional greenhouse that we're wanting to build is south of our existing greenhouse on this site. And that the establishment of the proposed conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. Again, our use is essentially agricultural. Our buildings are indeed removable. The hoop houses and the greenhouses can be removed from the property. Take about a month to do it, but in the site, once they are done, will be a bare site, and somebody can develop it as they wish to develop it at that time. But for now, the agricultural use will continue, and any other use of the site will have ceased. So with respect, I believe we have met the requirements for the conditional use permit amendment. We would ask that the commission approve our request. We would ask that the vegetative buffer requirement be removed. And I'll let Mr. Wingo supplement anything that I've said or correct any errors that I may have made, but hopefully there weren't too many.
Any questions for the applicant?
I think he wants to speak a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to let Mr. Wingo speak,
Yeah.
if that's fine.
Go ahead.
Well, basically, we've made the deal with a...
So, come to the microphone, sir.
Sorry, wrong mic. It's late. Anyway, I've been on Ebert Lane since 2005, and it's a unique little community, little corner of St. Charles County where people going down the road still wave at you. And I really do enjoy that and enjoyed running my business out of there and like to continue on with it. Over the course of the previous 17 years, I've taken care of the road as far as patching the potholes, resurfaced it twice. Well, actually, Rob Shatro resurfaced it the first time when I bought the property off of him as a condition, on the sale. Second time I resurfaced the road was in 2015, but like I say, it's slim pickings when your subdivision fee is $100 a month per resident. So, most of that burden fell on me and my company. I had my estimating department look at labor, equipment that we put into the site over the 17 years, and it's a little north of $250,000. Our greenhouses are high-tech because we're growing things that are unusual, things that people ask for, Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, people that want the native genetics from Missouri, from a certain ecotype. So it's a lot more technical, and we have probably in greenhouses and the computerization of the irrigation and climate control, we have about $300,000 in capital invested in that property. So we're very, very interested in preserving that. To the point, I can't take all the credit for the direct reporting thing. COVID had a lot to do with that, but our comptroller in the company, after having people direct report to the site, we realized it was way cheaper to pay guys to mileage to a job site than it was for them to ride in their truck and stop at the gas station, and it just worked out well. Our business model is, we prefer large jobs. We did Indian Camp Creek Park, Bromelsek Park, where you see the prairies in St. Charles County. Those are ours. Prairies and Forest Park are ours, but then we also cover the northeast quadrant in the United States for U.S. Forest Service, and none of those guys are reporting out there to Ebert. They're getting their directions, basically from an app we call Jobber, where they'll get their assignment on their cell phone. They know where it's at. They got a pin to go directly, to whatever city they're going to, and then the Forest Service directs them from there. As far as our work in the ag world, I'm on the USDA's technical committee for the Conservation Reserve Program and advise on more sustainable farming techniques and putting buffer strips to keep fertilizer and nutrients out of our water system. We're working on, for U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Big Muddy Wildlife Refuge on the Missouri River right now, as well as working in Iowa on the Hamburg levee up there where it broke. But we have very minimal, like I said, with this new technologies, we're able to be more efficient, have less of an impact. I live on, excuse me, I live on Ebert Lane, so I don't want every employee in the world knowing where I live, being chairman and the founder of the company. But we all get along pretty good, so, my son is moving next door to me, and you'll hear in the comments that we've had some serious impacts. Well, he's building a house next door to mine, and it took 100 tandem loads of soil, to get everything graded out. So that came down the road, and, it's funny, the next day I get this nasty email, I'm gonna have to go to court. I won't rattle on about this. We'll just let everybody else speak.
Any questions for?
Attorney's advising you other.
What is hoop houses and shape houses?
It's not a shape house, it's a shade house. It's a
shade.
That was a
cloth.
typo.
It says shape on our deal.
Yeah, no, a
It
shade.
said that on the concept plan, and my assistant dutifully took it down, and when I read it, I went, I don't think that's shape.
Yeah.
We didn't create the concept plan, so.
It's a shade house.
What are
It's
they?
a shade house, so
yeah.
it's for shade perennials.
Okay.
Where's the landscaping buffer that's in the recommendation? I'm just not clear.
It would be
Number
on, it'd be
two.
on both your east, west, and south sides is what they're recommending. We already have it on the north, next to Stone Meadows.
yeah, it says that.
What-
It
Yeah,
says-
what we're suggesting is that our neighbors to the east and south have said, look, we don't want it, we don't need it. I would tell you that to the west, we have substantial trees, and it's also agricultural to the west, is how it's used.
So
You know,
you're-
There's nothing there, so I honestly don't, given that we're essentially a farm, I don't think that the buffer it really should be required. It's just,
So you're okay with the buffer along the north property?
yeah, because it's already, that's Stone Meadows, it's already there,
Because
we
it
don't
looks
have a
like
problem with
there's,
that.
they've got trees there now.
Right, we don't have any problem with that. But
Okay.
the other, we just don't think makes a lot of sense.
And I don't-
Particularly because
I'm
we're
not
just-
seeing that- I guess I am seeing that as a condition.
Number 6.
Yeah.
What, be number 2?
2 is the north side.
Yeah, we don't have a problem with that.
No, 2 is the storm. Number 4 is the north side. Number 6 is where you plant the prairie, that's the.
Right,
the type-
yeah, we already have a prairie restoration completed on the east side. That's where Mr. Mueller and we outlined that.
The wrong one up. It goes back to the beginning every
Yeah,
time.
I have some thoughts on that, number 6.
You do?
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Is it okay if I speak?
Sure.
Sure.
So it says a type 3 landscape buffer, but reviewing the code, I think that's more than what's required in that. That would include a fence as well as the landscape. But also, as alluded to here, I think it's a little more complicated because it's based on proposed or existing uses, not zoning. So if the use next door is agricultural, you don't have to put in a buffer. But if the use next door is single-family residence, you can put in a type 1 or type 2 landscape buffer. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think I need a little more effort to figure out what's next door. Whether is that use agricultural, is that use single-family residential? So if you struck number 6, they're going to have whatever landscape
required.
buffer is required by the code anyway.
Sure.
So if you struck it, they're still going to have landscape buffering potentially.
But that could be the prairie though, couldn't it?
Well, no, it wouldn't be, and that's why I want you to help us with. Because right now, when you look at your buffers in your code, paint by number, you have so many trees, they got so many bushes, and I don't think in this instance, that's a good application. I think we can work with Robert and the staff, and, you know.
Can we waive that, or is that something that we can do as a part of a condition to?
Yeah, sure, you could, these are just suggestions.
Okay.
For a starting point for you all. You could change them all, you could ignore them, you could, whatever you want to do.
The reality is, we put those buffers in because we want to protect the adjacent property, and the
Right.
adjacent property doesn't want it.
I think the type 3 landscape buffer with the fence and the landscaping was proposed because previously it was going to be an outdoor storage yard, and that would have helped screen for the neighbors. But really, they're talking about a nursery
Yeah.
now. It's a little different.
Any other questions of the applicant?
But just for my clarification, the zoning, what the existing properties is what will ultimately determine it one way or the other, correct?
It's actually the use.
It's the
If the
use.
adjoining use is agricultural, there's no buffer required. If the adjoining use is single-family residential, then the type 1 or type 2
Okay.
landscape buffer would be required. And as
Can you go back to the
Mr.
area?
Goss was alluding
I can.
to, it is kind of a cookie cutter sort of ordinance, you know,
Yeah.
if it is next door, if it's single-family residential, but here, there's a little bit of gray area, because my interpretation has often been that you only have to extend the landscape buffer for the length of the use, for instance, from the neighbor. So you don't necessarily have to carry it all the way down the property line as long as it buffers from that use, or that screens from the next door neighbor.
The flag skinny piece right there isn't part of the use, you're saying, so that wouldn't be required, because that's could be where the residential's at, by your interpretation?
Right, I would not require landscape buffer along that long skinny part, because it's driveway.
Gotcha.
That's an example right there.
Okay.
Right, and I put on the screen so you can see where the John Jackson and Vern Jackson's property is. And you can see Mr. Jackson, Vern Jackson's house is up on Ebert Lane. But that's, the back of his property is where we put the prairie restoration area. And so,
Where that V is on V Jackson, is that trees?
yes, yes, those are all trees. So he's already buffered with all of that. And which was kind of his point, that I've got more than enough natural buffer. And the same with John Jackson. You can see he's over on the eastern part of his property is where he's located. And again, his letter says, I've got more than enough natural trees and buffer. I don't need him to plant an additional buffer. And then to the west of us, that's vacant ag, so there wouldn't be a buffer anyway. So that's what we'd request relief from.
Any other questions of the applicants? Hearing none, thank you, sir. Now we'll open the public hearing for CUP 22-17, which is a conditional use permit amendment request on Ebert Lane. Anyone wishing to speak?
I think I have a slide.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm as you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, sir, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Jim Kelly. I live at 2312 Ebert Lane, Wentzville, Missouri, 63385.
Okay, Mr. Kell?
I'm going to try and get this off so you can put a slide up. I apologize. I did not know you wanted to do that. I think if I press escape, that'll get me out of there.
I thought the people behind the
There.
behind the
We gotta get
scenes
his
would.
off first.
No, I didn't do that. Is this your slide, this PDF? I think it is. Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you, sir. As I'm here to oppose this expansion of a wholesale nursery, and as you'll see up here, Mr. Robert Meyer visited the DJM site at Ebert Lane, and he opened up a case of a zoning violation because when he was out there, he didn't find, his staff did not find information to support a nursery is being operated out there. So he opened up zoning violation 22004887. And that was based on the violations of no site plan was submitted for CUP 655. And plus, the business is not operating as a wholesale-only nursery. So I'm wondering, has a site plan been submitted for CUP 655?
It's a condition of a recommendation, it's a condition of what they're.
I understand that, sir. I've been trying for over a year to find out from Mr. Myers and his team, has a site plan been submitted for that conditional use permit 655? And from what I'm finding out, it never has been.
They have submitted a site plan, but you really can't go forward with site plan until the conditional use permit is approved. You know, they're pretty much on hold with the site plan until there's some resolution with the conditional use permit. Also, I did visit the site based on a neighbor complaint in 2022, and at that time, we determined that there was no site plan for the expansion area. And second, at that.
No, sir, there was, I'm sorry.
Robert,
sorry.
save yours for, like, we'll get yours
Okay,
later.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm just saying, that from what I found out, there was no site plan submitted for CUP 655.
We'll find that out. We'll ask that
Okay.
question.
I'm just wondering, has planning and zoning been out there to verify that the wholesale nursery is actually being ran out there?
We'll find out, sir.
Okay. And then, you know, it says that the zoning violation is currently an active code case. What does that mean?
That that means that code enforcement has made a visit to a location and found a violation. I will tell you that.
Okay.
No.
And also, Mr. Myers was trying to find out that they didn't have a merchant license to sell plants. I mean, have they come up and found a merchant's license? You know, if the nursery has a merchant's license, what's the name of the nursery? What's the name of the wholesale nursery? Nobody's ever been able to tell me that either. Then, how else am I doing this? You'll have to bear with me while I figure out this lovely technical. Oh, and then at the end of this CUP 2217, this last page, it shows the Ebert Lane history. It says the permit was initially denied by planning and zoning due to a lack of an ecological restoration company not understanding what an it's easy for you to say, ecological company does. And he says upon appeal to the county council and the support of the Ebert Lane residents, it was approved. That's not, I find that incorrect. If you look at the original CUP 655 analysis, the site analysis was denied, and was denied for the two big ones was that staff found the existing roadway was not designed for the vehicles and equipment that would accompany a nursery. And they also found that the roadway for primary access was not originally designed for traffic generation associated with the proposed nursery. So I'm confused as if a staff gives you denial, what's the criteria that the board overrules the staff's finding? And then the other part, I apologize for this, but, oh, that didn't work, did it? I wish there was an easier way. Where am I at? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. But the business model changed. And it states in there that he had 15 employees reporting to Ebert Lane to the location daily. To me, 15 employees reporting to Ebert Lane daily when they only need 2 to work in the greenhouse, to me, that raises a red flag. Were the employees actually working in the nursery, or were they picking up equipment to perform prairie restoration work? And the equipment that is located on Ebert Lane, he mentions, some of this equipment. I reached out to another ecological owner that does the exact same thing that DJM does, and I told him about this equipment, and I showed him pictures that I can show you later. He said, that equipment is all used in prairie restoration. So how is that equipment being used at the wholesale nursery? Just my question. And the CUP was originally submitted as a prairie restoration and maintenance business. And then that Jan Whipple says prairie restoration is not listed as a permitted or conditional use. Did I go the wrong way? And this is the equipment that he stores at the Ebert Lane site. And the gentleman that I spoke to, he said, that equipment is not for a nursery. That equipment is used for prairie restoration. So how can a wholesale nursery have equipment that does prairie restoration? And then my last one, and I'll get out of your hair, is, don't close it again, is I wish the panel would take into consideration the Ebert Lane Road dimensions. Just from a safety aspect, I wish you would consider the width of the road. If you're going to allow DJM to run their prairie restoration vehicles up and down that road, I find that that's going to create a problem. If a ambulance or fire truck or a police vehicle needs to get down there, that road is not that wide. It's 10 feet at the narrowest and 18 feet at the widest. And you saw that equipment that goes down the road. It's not equipment that's used in a wholesale nursery. So that's my 2 cents. So that's why I don't want them to expand it. And then if they expand it, does that mean more people are going to travel down Ebert Lane Road, after they expand the nursery? Is it going to have more people working at the nursery? Anything else?
No, you have anything?
You're the one giving the testimony, so.
So I can get all my questions answered?
That's why you ask them, we'll have them come up and answer.
Okay. I don't know how you close this thing, but.
Don't worry about that,
Yeah,
we'll
don't-
get it for you.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And girls.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Anyone else wishing to speak regarding CUP 22-17? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Jonathan Wingo, 1402 Tisbury Circle, O'Fallon, Missouri, 63366.
Go ahead, John.
As my father mentioned, I am building a home at 2141 Ebert, slated to close next month. Construction started in September of last fall and will end in April. And I've had a lot of heavy equipment come up and down the road, and I know there's been a lot of complaints about that and a lot of dump trucks and contractors. So I just wanted to give testimony stating that a lot of that was on my behalf as a homeowner and not anything to do with the company operating out of this location. As far as the nursery business, I think we all know where plants come from, right? They come from seed. So in order to produce plants, we have to produce seed. A lot of that equipment is used to produce seed, obviously off-site, but there's a lot of questions answered on that type of equipment, as that's what it's used for. So I think that's it.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding 22-17? You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Linda Jacquin, and I live at 2251 Ebert Lane. I've been at that address for many years, and we won't go into that. But, and I have no problems with DJM. In fact, DJM has helped to keep our lane, Ebert Lane, working for years and years and years. And anybody having any problems, they'll help them. So I have no problem with that. And I live further down on Ebert Lane, and Jim lives further up on Ebert Lane. He lives about the second or third house down from Highway N. So I just, we've never had any problems on Ebert Lane with anything like this before. So we've all gotten along well, and I think that is a credit to us. So I just wanted to say that I think the Wingos are doing a wonderful job, and they're always there to help people on our lane. Thank you.
ma'am. Anything else?
Nope.
Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Robert Hunt, 2180 Ebert Lane, Wentzville, Missouri, 63385.
Go ahead, sir.
So I wanted to just voice my support for the conditional use permit. I've lived on Ebert Lane since 2010. I'm about 2 or 3 houses up from where the nursery is currently located. And since the whole time we've been there, have had no problems, no complaints, no issues with the nursery, with any of the work that's being done. There's no noise issues or any concerns that I've had at any time. It has been actually a net benefit to the community, as mentioned, that, always willing to help out. John and his company and his people have always been willing to help out with the road, any issues with safety, actually improving the road, fixing the potholes, making sure it's safe to travel on. Always do a good job at taking care of that, cleaning it in the winter when the snow is on there. Always take care of that very quickly and without ever having any concerns with it. So I would like to just voice my support for it. And
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, ask the applicants to come back. Before you get into your notes, Ebert Lane, it's a private road, but is it an easement over several pieces of property?
I haven't searched the title, but there's all of the lot owners have a right to use the road. So it's either an easement by prescription and use, or there is a formal easement, and I can't tell you. I haven't searched title.
Okay.
But I do know the way it's been maintained is consistent with what you've heard here tonight in terms of my client maintaining the road and snow plowing the road and that sort of thing.
Go
So
ahead with
that's been the
your
manner
notes.
of maintaining it. So there's obviously a lot of confusion on the part of Mr. Kelly with respect to what was approved and what wasn't approved, and I understand that. This can be pretty technical stuff, and so I kind of get that. Obviously, the original COP 655 had a concept plan, a site plan for it. Had to have. They've been in business since 2005. There was an ordinance expressly adopting CUP 655 by the county council, and that's in the county records. So clearly, CUP 655 was validly granted. In 2017, when they came back to amend the CUP, that was all looked at again. Had there been a problem with the original ordinance adoption, it would have come up then. And it didn't, because there isn't one. What happened in 2017 was they wanted to put up a pole barn. And, I think I went through this in my presentation. And the county said, well, if you want to do that, you have to amend your CUP. So they went through that process. They got that amendment approved. County passed an ordinance approving it. They required a site plan with respect to that pole barn. And they were working through the site plan. And I put on the screen the site plan that they in fact submitted to the county staff. I don't know why it isn't in the county staff's records. It doesn't really matter. Because ultimately, they didn't complete it because they were working with Mr. Wheeler and they understood, well, we can defer that because we're going to work through the grading, the land disturbance permit, then we'll do the construction permit, and we'll pick up whatever we need to on the site plan at that time. They then didn't proceed with the site plan, and so, because they didn't proceed with the construction of the pole barn. So that's how we got to here. So when Mr. Meyer and the county received the complaint, they looked in their records, and they said, well, hey, well, we don't have a finalized site plan for 2017. And they're right, they didn't. And that was the violation that they issued a citation for. And so how do you cure the violation? We come here and we ask to amend our CUP so we can get in compliance. That's why we're here tonight, so that we can go ahead, get in compliance, put up our greenhouse, and do what we're supposed to do. I mean, ultimately, that is a misunderstanding on the part of my client. He thought, well, I got a CUP issued, so I can go ahead and do my stuff here in the south. He was wrong, because the site plan should have been formally completed. I think we can all understand why it wasn't. And now we're here tonight to correct it and get a site plan approved that really reflects what he wants to do. He don't want to build a pole barn. He wants to put up this greenhouse, put up a couple of hoop houses, pretty sophisticated stuff like he was talking about. And that's why we're going through this process. So, again, I think there's some misunderstanding, again, on the part of Mr. Kelly. What I said was the business model changed. Right, there were more employees going up and down that lane before 2018. We changed that. Went to direct report, as Mr. Wingo described. They get it on their cell phone, boom, they go out there. They don't go to Ebert Lane. The only employees who got going to Ebert Lane are the 2 employees who are managing the greenhouses and the seeding operations. So that's what's happening now, which is why I talked about it's just a lot less intensive of a use than it used to be in 2017. And in 2017, the county found that it was okay to amend the permit to build a pole barn. So I think that answers the questions that were asked.
This characterization as a wholesale nursery,
Well, he doesn't sell anything. What he does is, I'll answer that, because what he does with the plants, those perennial plants go to DJM, to its sites. And so they're used in the restoration projects. Now, the county staff, we had a big discussion about this, because I focused on sale. I said, well, look, he's not selling anything. And they said, well, there's another part of that definition which says if you're incorporating it into something that's being sold, then we consider that a sale that's part of a nursery. Okay? So they consider this a nursery. I was not going to argue with them. I said, fine. If they read that definition that way, and we can come into compliance by amending this plan, we're fine doing that. Rather than have an argument about, okay, is incorporating these plants into our projects that are sold, is that the sale of the plants, or is that the sale of the services in the plants? How many angels can get on the head of a pen? I just don't think it matters, which is why I didn't argue with the staff about it. After, they gave me their explanation, I said, okay, that's pretty reasonable. So,
to me,
so we're
it'd be more, you get a bid from MoDOT to go someplace, or Department of Natural Resources to do the restoration. These plants are going to be more, he would be really subject to tax for his inventory, more so than selling.
right, personally, that's what I think, but again, all this operation takes place over in West Florissant Avenue. They're taking the calls from MoDOT, they're doing the design to MoDOT, and then, when they know how many plants and what plants they need and what seed they need, then that's generated out of the Ebert Lane facility. And I tend to agree with you, Mr. Chairman, but again, I just didn't think it mattered. I mean, the point is, we simply want to get in compliance as the staff believes we need to be in compliance, and we're comfortable with that.
Wholesale nursery, though, if that's how we're going to characterize it, would they need a merchant's license?
Only if we are actually selling to someone.
Yeah, that I don't know, because not everything needs a merchant's license in St. Charles County, so I don't know the answer to that. There's only a certain specific categories of things that need merchant's licenses, and I don't know what the definition is, but.
I actually just went through that myself. My business purchased a vehicle, went to get a waiver for personal property taxes, and they said, well, you're a business, you need a merchant's license. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So it gave me the definition. It's a very slim subset. I mean, my business is a home office where I I'm a real estate agent. I'm not selling anything out of my house, right? So I don't need a merchant's license. But they have a whole page that says.
Yeah,
what you can do.
there's just a very specific list of types of businesses
Right.
that need merchants licenses.
You'd have to have inventory that you were selling, like if you're making jewelry or something and selling it out of your house, you know?
Which is really not what's happening, because the company is taking this inventory, incorporating it into its projects out in the field. So I respectfully don't think we need one. If somebody at the county contacts us and says, we think you do, we'll have the conversation, and we'll figure it out. I don't think it's relevant for the conditional use permit amendment that we're talking about tonight.
What about the gentleman's concern about other equipment being stored there and then employees picking up that equipment and taking it? I know you talked about two employees at the greenhouse, but what about employees coming to pick up equipment? Will that occur?
That will occur because like I say, we don't fit neatly into any one bucket. A lot of ours is seeding, which Jim showed a real nice picture of an air seeder, which is used to install a prairie planting when you're doing a restoration. I feel like this is deja vu because, originally in 2005, we never fit neatly into any one bucket, and had to go through this whole explanation with county council, and then when we pointed out, Indian Camp Creek Park, Bromosec Park, Forest Park, where you have these larger prairie plantings and things, that's what we do. We have seed and we have plants, but it's much more economical. Like Indian Camp Creek Park has 110 acres of seeding work, but how much mowing does that save? How much biological diversity does that preserve? How much carbon does that sequester? How many pollinators does that support? There's a lot more benefits to something like that than there is something spiky, something frilly, something round and a rock sitting in your front yard. And it took getting that mindset that an ecological restoration company, we look a little different than your traditional nursery that's selling shrubs and trees to land homeowners,
So the point is that he will have that cedar brought onto the site, because he has to, because he's developing seed. When the seed has been planted, it goes. Where their equipment is stored is over on West Florissant.
Okay, so
That's not something that they're storing lots of equipment on this site. They got 3 tractors, and they have 2 other pieces of equipment they're associated with the farming operations, what you told me.
Combines for collecting seed.
Combines for collecting seed. And so that's the operation.
So roughly, how many employees a day will arrive on the site? I mean, we know the 2 that are going to work there, but can you give us an idea?
That's kind of a vague number, but on average, you might see 3 or 4 foremen come in, pick up plants, pick up a piece of equipment,
Okay.
and go. The rest of them are pretty much just direct reporting. And, like I say, it depends on where you get the jobs at, too. We have location in
Sure.
St. Louis, and we have a location in Kansas City, so
I just wasn't sure if you were going to say, no, all that's done out of the West Florissant site.
No, so they have to
No.
come pick the plants up.
Okay.
West Florissant is primarily administrative services, warehousing of the seed,
Repair.
repair of equipment,
Right.
and any of our heavy civil equipment is out of there.
Okay, any additional questions?
I just want to make sure that, Robert, what Brad was talking about in terms of the characteristics of sales, this is covered now under the CUP, correct? Is that your understanding too? The definition or the way the sales are looked at? Is new CUP cover it like that?
The way I view this use, as best I can tell, and honestly, I've researched it quite a bit, trying to piece out the landscape contractor yard use versus the nursery, et cetera. Best I can tell, I would characterize this as a nursery and pretty much a low-impact nursery now. I do think that at one time that there was more of the landscape contractor yard, this property being used for storage for the landscape contractor yard, but my impression is that's no longer the case.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Chair will bring CUP 22-17 back to the commission for consideration.
So I'm just going to make a comment on this. I think this actually is exactly the right thing that is supposed to be done on this. I've read through a lot of this over the years, and I understand that you guys had an awfully hard time explaining it to both this commission and to the county council. So this is going to fix it. And for Mr. Kelly, I'm going to let you know that this is going to fix it too. So just let you know. So that's my comment.
Yeah. Any other comments? We need to make a decision about the buffer.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve with the removal of recommendation 6, the landscape buffer along the eastern portion.
Okay. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 22-17, including the recommendations by county, by staff, with the exception of recommendation number 6, which says a type 3 landscape buffer along the western, eastern, and southern property lines, as well as trees illustrated on the approved site plan must be maintained in a healthy condition with diseased or dead trees removed. That would not be part of the CUP, amended CUP. Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Clary made the second. Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay.
Thank you.
There's so many things on this agenda.
Yeah, now I gotta find, okay, we're at,
2302.
yeah, 2302, okay. So, next on our agenda is conditional use permit request, 501, located at 501 Hickory Dale. Application number CUP 23-02, property owner is IPX Thompson, 422-296 LLC, Michael Thompson. Applicant is MJ Properties LLC, Michael Thompson. Property zoning is R1E, single-family residential district. Conditional use request is to allow a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet and a 6-foot side yard setback. The location is on the northwest corner of Labonte Drive and Hickory Dale Drive, located in Council District 7. Staff.
Yeah, so the county has previously received 3 applications for this requested action before. All of these 3 applications have been approved, and they've been a part of a larger development. Those developments are the Belmont Landing, which was annexed into the city of O'Fallon, Sedona, and most recently the Reserve at Lakeview Farms. The subject property has been zoned R1E, single-family residential, since the exception of zoning in the county. The subject site has served as a vacant lot adjacent to 505 Hickory Dale Drive, where the previous owners lived. The applicant is proposing to split the subject site into 2 lots and intends to put a single-family residence on each newly created parcel. The subject site fronts both on Hickory Dale and Labonte Drive. Labonte Drive is a gravel road that runs along the east, of the subject property and is around 10 feet wide and turns into Teardrop Drive about 200 feet north of the subject property. This lot is served by Missouri American Water Company and Duckett Creek Sewer District. In terms of the applicant's request, the proposed conditional use reduces the lot size to 6,000 square feet. In this case, the applicant is proposing 2 lots to be approximately 12,600 square feet. Should this conditional use be granted to the applicant, a re-subdivision plat will be needed and submitted to staff, reviewed and presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Staff believes that the Planning and Zoning Commission should recommend approval of this application as it complies with the 5 criteria in section 405-510B of the county code and aligns with the 2030 master plan, with the sole condition being a re-subdivision plat approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and a final plat that substantially conforms with the concept plan attached in Exhibit B.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, before we get started, I need to make a disclosure. I own a property in the notification area on the corner of Teardrop and Hickory Dale Drive. It is a rental property. I do not believe that the outcome of the CUP would have any financial impact on me or my property in any way, and therefore I believe that I can participate in the discussion and the vote, but I did want to go ahead and disclose that.
Thank
So-
you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, ask the applicant to come forward.
That was for Brian.
Sorry that you have to wade through all this.
It's been good, it's been a good time. I've actually enjoyed myself.
You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Matthew John Icorn, and I reside at 122 Fox Haven Drive in O'Fallon, Missouri, 63368.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
As stated, sorry, I have a plan here.
We've got, that's, hold that up. No.
I think we have it on
I think we
ours.
have it.
Just
Yeah.
show it to us.
Show it to us.
We have it right here.
Yeah, we have it. Yeah,
He's got it set up, so.
You can go put it up there again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm new at this.
That's okay.
I'm a first timer. So yes, we are proposing to split the lot in half. It would divide the lot. It would divide the lot. Sorry, I'm a loud talker, so I'm not used to a microphone. It would divide the lot. It's a .58 acre lot. So we would be dividing these down to .29 acres apiece. They would be equally split. As you can see, we are meeting all of the conditions. They're set 30 feet back. We're going to move it 17 foot from the first house. Here will be moved 17 foot over from the property line. We are planning on building roughly two 1,100 to 1,200 square foot homes. Recently widowed mother-in-law will be living in one of these homes. I'm sure you can understand the level of maintenance I will be providing on these. At the age of 45, these are retirement income. I'm native to St. Louis, don't plan on moving anywhere, and I have 20 years before I even hope to retire. So I mean, these will be a long-term investment for me. This has been done in the neighborhood. Several of these lots have been split up to accommodate multiple homes from previously larger lots. You know, we are targeting, as you know, with my mother-in-law, we're also targeting, you know, an age group of 55 to 65. The last rental house, which is off of Mexico and Mid-Rivers Mall Drive, I had over 150 applicants in 2 hours. So what I mean by that is I can literally select my residents or my tenants as I wish, especially with the current market. So just to give you an idea, that's what we're aiming for. And as you can see here too, from a quick diagram of the house, we're looking at just a few steps into the home, nothing major. But again, a lot of the homes in the area, around 0.18 to 0.33 acres off of that, and we're aiming it right at 0.29, so we'll be at one of the larger lot sizes. And right now, it is just an abandoned lot with an old cistern and whatnot. We won't be tearing down any trees, we'll only be cutting down the trees necessary to build these two homes.
Now, the variance is this, will be the 6 foot between the two homes?
Yes, sir. I believe that right now we have roughly almost 19 feet between the two homes. We have, between this side wall, we have 9'8" to the split property line, and then we have another 6 foot 8 inches from that property line to the next house, so totaling close to 19 feet.
So, yeah, so from structure to structure is 19 feet, but from structure to property line is 6 feet.
6 feet, 8 inches, yes, so
Yeah.
we're just over that, yes.
Okay, similar to the villas in Whitmore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you, sir. We'll now open the CUP for, open CUP 23-02, located at 501 Hickory Dale, to allow minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet and a 6-foot side yard setback. Anyone here wishing to speak regarding this application? Anyone? Yes, not. We'll close the public hearing for CUP 23-04. Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
No, I think this is an appropriate use of the ground. We're seeing throughout that development, the wider lots being split and these types of homes being built. So I think it's very much conforming with what's the trend there.
Yeah, it's a shortage of what we need in the county, those types of homes. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP dash, or 23-02, per the staff recommendations.
So moved.
Mr. Baker made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Shell made the second. Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Thank you. Conditional use permit request, CUP 23-04 has been continued to the April agenda. The next thing, we go get back to this other thing. Next thing we need to do is approve the minutes for the December 21st, 2022 regular meeting. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes? Hearing
Move to
none?
approve.
Motion to approve has been
Second.
made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. Now we gotta get back to, wait until we got everybody here. Election of officers. We were supposed to do this in January and then February, and here we are in March. So is there a nomination for we elect a commission chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary. Currently, I'm the chairman, Mr. Cleary is the vice chairman, as Ms. Bamer is the secretary. So is there a motion for commission chairman?
I nominate Mr. Roger Ellis for chairman.
I second.
Okay. Mr. Fromm. Mr. Baker, okay.
Any others?
Here, you take over since I can't, I guess I need to leave the room.
Well, is there any other
Any other
nominations
nominations?
for chairman? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mr. Ellis, you get to continue to be the wonderful chairman. You're back on the job now.
Okay.
I don't think you want the people that were late today to be the chairman. Me being one of them, so.
We should have went ahead and done it, okay? It'd have been a big surprise. Okay, next is commission vice chairman.
I'm going to make a recommendation to change, without any insult to Mr. Cleary, for vice chair, for Kyle Shell to be the vice chair. Motion for
Motion's
Kyle.
been made for Mr. Shell.
No offense taken, Mr. Fromm. I'm perfectly glad for that.
Why don't you second it?
I second it.
There you go.
Okay.
Give other people opportunities.
Right.
To grow.
Mr. Cleary, so motion's been made and seconded to elect Mr. Shell as vice chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. All those in favor sign aye.
Aye.
Next is the commission secretary. Is there a motion to nominate someone for this position?
I can't be the only person. Come on, guys.
I'll make a motion to nominate Ms. Barr.
Very good.
You don't want to do that.
Second.
You really, really don't want to do that. My handwriting is illegible.
Well, all you have to do is sign the book.
Second.
Okay.
I thought I had to take notes because I can't even read my own notes.
So Ms. Barr has been a nomination to nominate Ms. Barr as the commission secretary. Is there a second?
Second. Yes.
Ms. Ketchner.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Ms. Barr as the secretary for the commission. All those in favor sign aye.
Aye. Can't help it.
Picture of what Mr. Barno.
Okay. Now, other business, planning and zoning update.
Just briefly, Planning and Zoning Division has several updates and wanted to let you and our viewing audience know that St. Charles County has positions open for one or more planners. So if anyone that you know of is interested in, and you believe could be qualified, please please let them know that they're welcome to.
Those days are over.
They're welcome to go to the county's website, to the Human Resources Division. Second, I should let you know that Sheila Weiss, who for years helped the St. Charles County's Planning and Zoning Commission, she has recently resigned, and she's continuing to undergo physical therapy, and she's hoping to be back to work whenever she's ready to come back to work. But at this moment, she's not quite ready, so I want to let you know that we're not only advertising, but actively taking applications for her position as well. So those are a couple of updates that I want to let you know about.
And the other update is Marissa over here is having to do double duty, taking care of planning and zoning and the Port Authority, so don't give her a hard time.
Yeah. I wish I had more Marissas and Marks and Jareds. I mean, that would be great, so
Yeah.
we're hoping to see that.
Anything else? Is that it?
That's it.
Counselor, do you have anything? Mr. Denoff?
You really had to say that. You had to get it in the minutes. Is that what you-
No, that's not in the minutes.
He's watching, he's gonna walk right in.
Chair will entertain
Motion to adjourn.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, sign aye. Aye.